doing this on an odd day because we're odd. Okay. Yeah. And it's all Tomir's fault.
Yeah, it is.
It is actually. Tomer fucked up everything. It's his fault. Blame him.
Always. Yeah, that's one of my
Always.
Your mic, Tomer.
You may be odd. I am simply fabulous, although not on screen today.
Yeah.
And we all believe her. But Tomer, is your mic set to something else?
No, why?
Because I don't think it's coming through the mic in front of your face.
Oh yeah, you're right. It doesn't. I wonder why. Okay, now
there we go. Okay, that's a lot better. Also,
yeah, I mean the camera is it was connected to the camera, so it's.
Gotcha. So also you might notice a bit of a name change right here. Yeah, the Behold Network. We did the rebrand. I'll be posting videos under that name now. The channel is just a retitle. But also to celebrate this wonderful fact, hey, I got something in the mail recently that I think everyone else should also receive in the mail.
Indeed.
Merch.
Dragon?
Everything is meaningless, completely meaningless. The greatest verse in the Bible.
And of course it's a B.
It has to be a B. Go get some merch.
Get merch.
There's I'm going to be posting a video soon, within the next few days, I think. It's going to be the first response to PragerU, which I hate doing response videos, but unfortunately, I think this is the time that we live in, and this time that we live in sucks. So, going to be doing some of those. I have a couple other projects that I'm slowly working on, so we'll see. I don't have a time frame for those. But if people have certain videos that they want me to respond to, especially from PragerU, or actually just from PragerU, then go to the Discord and send them to me. So, and the Discord has also been renamed, by the way.
Did you hear now that he's not allowed to be a psychologist or psychiatrist anymore because he kept telling people to kill themselves? Peterson is now trying to make himself his own university too, just like Prager, which means
wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, God, the prayer of every person who has ever felt imposter syndrome is, God, give me the confidence of a mediocre white man. Because those two are so mediocre, and the amount of audacity, it's actually impressive.
Likewise, I'm impressed that Brian Dalton, the Mr. Deity channel, that Brian Dalton was personal friends with Dennis Prager and Bill Nye.
That's crazy.
Both of them. Wow. Yeah, been to their houses, out to dinner with them many times, all that.
Mr. Deity, he subscribed to my channel a long time ago. Didn't leave a single comment, so I don't actually know what he thinks. But he subscribed a long time ago, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Mr. Deity!" Never said a thing.
Yeah, I got the impression that he's just really busy all the time.
That's fair.
Yeah,
we've all been there.
Yeah, and there's this other aspect which probably shouldn't say, but I'm thinking since he's Californian, it's probably a good deal of hours of the day where he's just, imbibing, man.
Well, he's just close to the earth, and the sun sets in his backyard, so
All right, enough ribbing on the man who should be here today. By the way, I keep sending invitations, but he never responds. I have to send a personal one. If I send it as a group, he doesn't answer group mails. I know a few people like that. Anyway, so we're reading Nehemiah today.
Yeah.
All of it. We're just going to finish it all right now, right?
Yeah, too bad that I only have up to chapter 10.
Too bad. Yeah. I guess you're going to have to catch up real quick, Tomer.
I guess,
yeah. Even the short Nehemiah is long
Yeah.
enough. If you want to do a whole book in a day, you want to get something like Amos,
Obadiah?
Obadiah,
Psalms. Oh, God.
Dishonor.
And there are people that do that every day.
Do we have any opening comments on Nehemiah?
This is the other half of the racist duo. Huzzah! Ezra was the priesty one, and Nehemiah is the character of the temporal powers, shall we say? Yeah. How real they are is... Actually, that's a good question to start with. How real were Ezra and Nehemiah as historical figures?
I mean, it is possible that they were. I mean, I don't think we have like.
Sorry, I was away from the computer. I did not hear anything that you said.
Aaron asked if there's any like opening comments on Nehemiah.
And I asked about their probability as historic characters, which
I mean,
we've
sure,
established is,
sure. I'll grant that. I don't actually care. It doesn't matter.
I mean, it could. I don't think
there's no outside sources, but we wouldn't expect any. So
right,
yeah. I mean, it's not.
It's
not
probable
improbable.
that they are
I don't
real.
think it's. Yeah, I don't think it's improbable that they did not exist. I do think that there is like some kernel of historical truth, at least in these books, with embellishments, of course. But like, I think we've dated like Ezra to like the 4th century BCE, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it would make I think so. Yeah, somewhere 4th to 5th, right? Like right in that range. Like the ends of the century. Yeah. So the way that it starts off, when it says hold on, what was it? Yeah, so the way that the book starts, right, in the words of Nehemiah, in the month of Kislev in the 20th year. I misread that, 20th year. So the note here is if the 20th year refers to the reign of Artaxerxes I, this would be 445 BCE. If it refers to the reign of Artaxerxes II, it would be 384 BCE. Both claims entail complications that make the authorship and date of composition difficult to determine.
Yeah, that's another thing because of the kind of mistakes there seems to be about like the order of the kings and the time period. Then that kind of brings into question the authorship. But it could be that they
can be an interesting clue, though. We know the book of Daniel was 2nd century because it made so many mistakes about the time that it was have been addressing, but was far more accurate, in prophesying the times in which it,
because the prophecy, the prophecy in what, Daniel 7, right, ends. Is it no? When does I think it starts in 7? When does it end? I forget. It's been a while since I read Daniel. But like the thing is, the imagery ends with with someone who would be identified as Antiochus IV Epiphanes. So and that's where the prophecy ends. So that's where the book is from.
Oh, it's not from Alexander. It's even later. Okay.
Well, it's from the.
Alexander, right? Is the guy who has like
Alexander the Great.
Yeah, Alexander the Great.
Yeah, Alexander the Great was from 323, I think BCE. Yeah. So he was in the 4th century. Yeah.
Right. So he would have because I think he's actually in the prophecy as well, but he's not the last guy.
He's not the last
actually
one,
he's either the Thorn or something. Or the
I
Thorn,
don't
the last
remember.
one.
I do not remember.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just
there's a
going
lot
to
of different
apologize
versions.
to everyone. The reason you can't see my beautiful face is that my computer decided it did not want to live this morning. And I don't know if it committed suicide or just went into a coma. We're going to have time to figure that out later.
Me and your computer have a lot in common.
Well, the computer has never proposed to marry me, nor hinted at giving me a sword. So,
well, still a lot in common. We both want to die.
I really want a sword.
All right, so we're going to read Nehemiah now, or I'm going to read Nehemiah now. Let's see here.
Yeah, you should.
Remembering that all of this is absolutely true, because Lawrence and Tomer said so.
Better them than
Yeah.
God.
You know
Yeah.
what? Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. Everything the Bible says is true and infallible. So therefore, Jesus is a door.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think I like I
There's a
think I like
door.
the precedent of everything both Tomer and I say is true. So we'll go with that.
Okay.
Wait,
Well,
what?
I mean, he was nailed with wood, and like that is how you make a door
Exactly.
with wood
He was a
and
door.
nails.
He was. Yeah.
What? Wait, why
So-
is he a door?
Because he said so. He said, "I am the door." He said he is the door, so he is the door.
Oh, okay.
He's
I thought he was
also
the word.
light. He is
Yeah.
a light.
He
as
is a
well.
light and a.
He's a lamp. He's he's a door. He's the whole damn house.
I was gonna say he's a Shabbos lamp because he's like a lamp with a door on top of it. You can
Mm,
All right.
turn on and
okay.
off.
I'm going to read Nehemiah the way all the books of the Bible begin. Once upon a time in a land far, far away. Here we go. The words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah, in the month of Chislev, in the 20th year, while I was in the citadel of Susa, one of my brothers, Hanani, came with certain men from Judah, and I asked them about the Jews who escaped, those who had survived the captivity, and about Jerusalem. They replied, "The remnant there in the province who escaped captivity are in great trouble and shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been destroyed by fire." When I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, fasting and praying before the God of heaven. I said, "Oh Lord, God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments, but let Jerusalem fall. Let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer of your servant that I now pray before you day and night for your servants, the Israelites, confessing the sins of the Israelites, which have sinned against you. Both I and my family have sinned. We have offended you deeply, failing to keep the commandments, the statutes, and the ordinances that you commanded Moses, your servant. Remember the word that you commanded Moses, your servant. If you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the peoples. But if you return to me and keep my commandments and do them though your outcasts are under the farthest skies, I will gather them from there and bring them to the place where I have chosen to establish my name. They are your servants and your people, whom you redeemed by your great power and your strong hand. O Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delight in revering your name. Give success to your servant today and grant him mercy in the sight of this man. At the time, I was cupbearer to the king." And that's where it stops in my version.
It's all. Yeah, that's also in the Masoretic text as well. Which is, I mean, I don't know if the Septuagint has it like in the second chapter. Let me just check. I don't think it is actually.
If I can interrupt real quick, Lilith, I think I fixed it so people can see your face.
Oh God.
Oh God! Of course you did. Okay.
Oh
No.
Why isn't it showing?
It is
showing.
showing.
Yeah, not only is that a strange place to end a chapter, but actually it's not even its own verse. It's part of the previous one. It's actually a really long verse. Like, it starts from, "Oh Lord, let your ear be attentive," whatever, and all the way to the "I was a king's cupbearer." All one
Has
big
everyone
verse.
else noticed how all the prayers have to be like creepy kissing the ass of God and taking the blame for everything all the time?
I mean, I think that's typical for ancient Near Eastern like prayers, right?
Yeah.
So, Yeah. So I would. It is an odd placement of the. The Septuagint also has it like at the end of the verse, um, of the chapter. Sorry. So I need to check real quick if there's any. I know that I wrote a comment about the specific "I was cupbearer to the king," but like not the specific placement of the statement in this verse because I didn't know how significant it would be, but then
Yeah. So yes, Sudarashi had a bit of fun with this chapter because there's a couple of things. One is we mentioned before that he just combines like multiple kings into one. So he's like, yeah, this is because later on in Nehemiah we see that this is the king at the time is Artahashta or Artaxerxes, and so he's like, yeah, this is Artaxerxes who is also Darius, and like there's a previous story in Ezra where like some dude who is sent by Darius, I think, to give like a message to stop the building or whatever, and I think his name is like Hatashasa or something like that. And so according to Sudarashi, that's Nehemiah, which I don't know. It doesn't make
Tushata, yeah, because there is I think in Ezra we also have Tushata, and in this. Yeah, and Nehemiah
Tirshata is the Tirshata, right?
Yeah, and Nehemiah is called Tirshata here in this book. So
yeah, but if he had visited the land, didn't the Tirshata was there, right? So if he had visited the land, why would he need to get like? I guess it's maybe it's a long time difference, but still, I don't think the kings line up because this is Artaxerxes the first, most probably, which, as we said, was about like in the 20th year would have been about 445 PCE, and I think Darius is like 5. He would have died in like 486. So,
do we have any records from the Persian Empire of what was going on at this time? Because Cyrus was the one who apparently said they could go back. And
Yeah,
all this back and forth about whether or not they can build the temple or the wall, and they're going to rebel, and all this back and forth.
I don't think we have any Persian sources about any of this. The closest we have is
any other.
Is just Cyrus's proclamation saying that different people could go back to different places, but there's nothing specific about him. He didn't say anything specifically about the Israelites or the Judahites. So it's kind of just an inference that the archaeological record supports this story.
Okay, well that's
it's supporting evidence. It's not like,
I wouldn't expect Cyrus himself to pay attention to this minor province, but you know how it is with everything. There's always receipts for petty squabbles and things between regional managers, that kind of thing. I was wondering if anything like that had remained.
I don't think so.
Okay, so we're moving on to the next chapter now.
Well, we did kind of end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so before I'll start the commentary, y'all should know the bibliography, which is essentially mostly the same. I have here Fried's commentary on Nehemiah as well, hardcover, because that's the only thing that they had. Again, we have Becking and Japhet and Harrington. Not Eskenazi, because the volume on Nehemiah has not been published yet. So I had to replace her with Gary V. Smith's commentary on Ezra-Nehemiah from, I think it's the exegetical. It's evangelical. I think it's an evangelical commentary, though it is.
Did I hear that right? You're going to be reading Gary Busey's commentary on Nehemiah?
Gary
just say yes, Tomer.
Okay, you know what? Fine.
Gary Busey would have been more coherent than an evangelical.
It's rare when you get like a good evangelical commentary, but they do weirdly exist. The commentary that I'll be primarily using for Esther is from Anthony Tomasino, and it's from the Evangelical Exegetical Bible, like the commentary series. And it's really fucking good.
Yeah,
it's really fucking good.
I'm going to use that as well. So yeah, it's from the series. Sorry, the book is from the series Zondervan Exegetical Commentary on the Old Testament, and Zondervan is also the publisher of the Word Biblical Commentary. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so that's that. And yeah, the same traditionals. It's essentially the same thing, except
you said Zondervan's the publisher for you said for Word, right? Word
Biblical. Yeah.
Yeah. That's strange because I have a Word Bible commentary right here, and it does say Nelson is the publisher.
Yeah, it was, but now it's Zondervan.
Gotcha.
Okay, so without further ado, I'll start with verse 1. Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. Nehemiah already appeared as one of the heads of the people who returned from Babylon, as we see in Ezra 2:2 and Nehemiah 7:7. He is later called the Tirshata in 8:9 and 10:2, a title meaning His Majesty, and described himself as the king's cupbearer in verse 11 here, as well as being the governor of Jerusalem in 5 verses 14, 15, and 18, and 12, 26. Harrington notes that Nehemiah, who was more dramatic and authoritative than Ezra, was admired by several ancient writers, such as Sirach 49:13, quote, "The memory of Nehemiah also is lasting. He raised for us the walls that had fallen, and set up the gates and bars, and rebuilt our ruined house," end quote. According to 2 Maccabees, Nehemiah rebuilt the temple and altar in Jerusalem, rekindled the sacrificial fire from the altar of the first temple, as we see in 8 verses 18 through 20, contra Josephon 7, which attributes it to Ezra, and established a library with books, quote, about the kings and prophets and the writings of David, and later of kings about votive offerings, end quote, in 213. Josh Scott, however, in EBR Nehemiah Book and Person, notes that the fact that no definitive textual evidence of Nehemiah was preserved in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is disputed by some, suggests that Nehemiah and his deeds were not valued in the same way among all Second Temple groups.
Well, that wouldn't exactly be news. I mean, what's the old joke? 2 Jews, 3 opinions?
You could say
I'm
that.
assuming that's been a long-standing thing.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, on that same verse, in the 20th year. The reference is to the 20th year of Artaxerxes I, circa 445 BCE. Commentators note that there is a discrepancy with the dating given in 2:1, quote, in the month of Nisan in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, end quote. Since Nisan is the first month according to the Babylonian calendar, which the Persian calendar followed, if we assume a chronological consistency throughout the book, the dating in this verse should be the 19th year. Fried notes some of the solutions for this discrepancy. 1. An error has crept into the text and the verse should be corrected to the 19th year, according to Rudolf Blegensop and Japhet, or that 2:1 should be corrected to the 21st year, according to Mowinkel. 2. The book of Nehemiah doesn't use the Babylonian calendar, but the Judean one, in which the year begins in the month of Tishrei, so that Kislev would precede Nisan, according to Pseudo-Rashi, Titrani on 2:1, based on Talmud Rosh Hashanah 3a, and Myers. 3. The author is using the dates of the king reckoned from when he ascended the throne, and Artaxerxes I ascended the throne in Kislev, according to Gunweg. Harrington notes Steinman's opinion that the 20th year refers to some other event rather than the king's reign, perhaps Nehemiah's own years of service in the Persian court. She adds that the lack of clarity as to whose 20th year is intended may indicate that this text is an excerpt from a longer journal by Nehemiah.
I mean, it seems a bit coincidental then if it was like the first chapter is the 20th year of my counting, and then the second chapter is like the 20th year of the king, and just a couple of months later or earlier. Yeah, it makes more sense that it's either just a mistake or they were just using counting from a different month rather than Nisan. I don't agree with the idea that it's the king's counting was from a different month, because I don't think that was a thing. I don't think they counted a king's year based on when he came to the throne. I think it was always based on let's say Nisan, the first month of the year. So they would always count that as the beginning of the year. So if he was crowned, let's say 2 months before, that would be the first year, and then his second year would start on the new year. But it could have been an exception.
Okay, on that same verse, the citadel of Susa, in Hebrew, Shushan Habira. Shushan is in modern-day Susa, Iran, circa 150 miles from the Persian Gulf. It was the capital city of Elam before the Persians conquered it, and it became the Persian king's winter residence. Susa is also the place of events in Esther and Daniel 8:2. The word Bira is borrowed from the Akkadian Birtu, referring to a citadel or fortress. Becking notes that the same word is used in the Elephantine papyri as an indication of the military fortress on the island in the Nile. In modern Hebrew, Bira refers to the capital city. And Septuagint reads Sausan Habira. They're just transliterating the Hebrew.
Yeah, I think the idea of it being the capital city is pretty old. I think traditional Jewish commentators can translate it that way. Quite a while ago, as far as I can tell, as I remember. Yeah. I don't think it's because modern Hebrew uses it like that. I think it's Mishnaic or something like that.
It could be, though. Maybe. I
definitely remember learning, the story of Esther with Shushan as the
I think
capital.
it's actually confusion of Shushan Habira, Bira meaning capital city, and people are like, oh, because Shushan was the Bira, then it probably refers to the capital city. So I think it's just arose as a mistake.
Okay.
Maybe. So yeah, according to the Academy for the Hebrew language, whatever, it previously was called Ir Melucha, it's capital city. So.
Oh yeah.
Which means a royal city or something like that. Okay, so on verse 2, Nehemiah defines the Judeans as the Jews, in Hebrew HaYehudim, the remnant, HaPlita, and those who had survived the captivity, Asher Nish'aru Min HaShevi. Japhet writes that by these definitions, the Jews, quote-unquote, were those who remained in Judah after the destruction. She notes that some scholars, like Costes and Torre, interpreted these definitions as an exact reflection of the historical reality, i.e., until Nehemiah, there was no immigration from Babylon to Jerusalem, and that all Jews, quote-unquote, were descendants of the non-exiled people. She writes, however, that the definitions do not portray the historical data, but rather the definition of the Judean people's identity. The Judeans define themselves as those who survived the captivity, even though there were people among them who returned from Babylon. This definition by Nehemiah is also found in Haggai and Zechariah, where there is no expression for the returnees in Judea, even though there were returnees in Judah at the time.
I mean, is it possible that this is from a tradition that doesn't include the earlier returns? Ezra has 2 waves of immigration, and now this is kind of like a third, right? So is it possible that this was written where there was only one returning wave, or this is the first one, just dating it differently? Or do we consider Ezra and Nehemiah to be very much a unified story?
I wouldn't call it unified. I think it was written by at least 2 different authors from 2 different periods, but Japhet writes that we should understand it as a reference to Judeans who were rescued from their captivity, that is, from their exile in Babylon, and who had returned home and were not living in Judah. According to Batten, Fincham, and Steinman. Yeah. Yeah, and she also writes, there is no hint anywhere in the book of Nehemiah that the protagonist is only interested in one subset of the population that had not been deported, when he himself in Persia counts himself among them. If that's any help.
Okay.
Okay, so on verse 3, it is unclear what event this verse refers to. Josephus in Antiquities 11:161 dramatizes the traveler's account by adding that the surrounding nations, quote, had inflicted many evils against the Judeans, overrunning and plundering the country by day and working evil by night, so that many from the country and from Jerusalem itself had been carried off as captives, and every day the roads were found to be filled with dead bodies, end quote. Fried, however, writes that this description is unlikely, given the contemporary Greek writers who emphasize the safety of the provinces under Persian occupation. Traditionals like Pseudo-Rashi, Gersonides, and Ditrani wrote that the verse refers to the destruction of the first temple by Nebuchadnezzar, since the returnees did not yet build a wall for Jerusalem, because the king only permitted them to build a temple. This view is favored by Fensham and Jagersma, with Japhet noting that the description fits with Jerusalem's condition after the destruction by the Babylonians. The wall does not exist, but it is full of breaches, and its gates burnt, as we see in 2 Kings 25:9 and 10, and Jeremiah 52:13 and 14. Others take the verse to refer to a later date. Becking notes that Williamson saw it as referring to Ezra 4:23, which he perceives as an implicit message about devastation in 458 BCE. Becking himself writes that the use of the participle meforatzet indicates an ongoing situation, i.e. the desolate state of the city continues. Smith suggested that Hanani was reflecting on the severe discouragement people felt when Artaxerxes stopped all recent work on the construction of the temple, in Ezra 4:7-23. Harrington takes a middle approach and writes that the verse speaks about both events. On verses 5-11, commentators note that Nehemiah's prayer is written in Deuteronomistic language. For example, verse 5 is a direct quote of Deuteronomy 7:9. The commandments, statutes, and ordinances in verse 7 is a typical Deuteronomistic expression found in Deuteronomy 6:1, 7:11, 26:17, and as Fried notes, Deuteronomy explicitly predicts that repentance during exile will bring about Israel's eventual return to the land, as we see in Deuteronomy 4:27 and 29 and 31 and 32, 4, and 5. This had led several commentators, like Blenkinsop and Wright, to conclude that the prayer was not original to Nehemiah's memoir, but was written by a different author, like the editor of En or the chronicler. Likewise, Fried writes that this prayer and the prayer in Ezra 9 were inserted later in the production of the text, and were likely by the same author who combined Ezra 7-10 with Nehemiah 1-13. Written at a time when prayers were routinely being added to the biblical texts, like Hannah's prayer in 1 Samuel 2:1-10, David's psalm in 2 Samuel 22, Solomon's prayer in 1 Kings 8, etc. Japhet, however, notes that this viewpoint ignores the uniqueness of this prayer in contrast to other prayers from the same genre, and the use of formulaic and stereotypical language is not enough to discredit its authenticity. She writes that Nehemiah uses formulas which portray the long tradition of the Deuteronomistic prayer, in general, and the confession prayer in particular, and sees himself as representing the people, not just himself. Likewise, Williamson, Becking, Harrington, and Smith take the prayer to be part of Nehemiah's memoir. On verse 6,
there's definitely some like familiar language, like that have been. I don't know if it's just like language that they're taking from the same source, but a lot of like prayers that you'll find in like a Jewish prayer book or whatever uses a lot of similar language. You know, like the commandments, laws, and rules that you gave to your servant Moses. I'm sure I've seen that somewhere else as well. Yeah.
It is interesting in a way, and we can speculate about how much is imitation of previous styles, kind of a la Joseph Smith attempting to imitate the style of King James Bible, or, which granted, I don't think Nehemiah ever pretended to read anything out of a hat, but impersonating a style for greater I don't know,
Well, it could.
authenticity
I mean,
or credit.
the,
Totally
yeah.
offended.
I mean, the Deuteronomy, the Deuteronomist, isn't that far removed in time from this, is it? You know,
No, but the
traditionals are a bit
Deuteronomist
further apart. No.
not that far, but it's far enough. And certainly it has a specific style and goal. And if you're trying to rebuild a people and you want to create this idea that whatever you're saying is from the old tradition, imitating that style is kind of par for the course.
Mm. I mean, it also could have been that people praying in later times would have, maybe they didn't necessarily have fixed prayer formula, but they might have used a similar style of speaking when praying.
Oh yeah. But again, I'm not saying it's all necessarily fake or inauthentic to imitate that style. People can, compose prayers in a sort of a more dramatic style because they feel that the prayer requires solemnity or what have you. But just in that regard.
So I got a couple comments to read. Shadow Slays. It's an interesting name. Says, I keep hearing from Christians that morals came from God. But if that's true, where are all the atheist riots? Where is all this immorality from atheists I keep hearing about? Yeah, why wasn't Carl Sagan out there running amok? Isaac Asimov. No, that's not a thing necessarily. Importantly, because we always hear this argument that, will you shut up? I'm not eating anything. Shut up. Sorry. Parrot right next to me, who has to be in the middle of a conversation all the damn time. Anyway, when people tell you that morality comes from God, notice that the clergy cannot, and this is true, they cannot define what morality is, meaning how to determine whether something is or isn't moral. All they can do is use a subjective reference that whatever is immoral is whatever is against God, or whatever defies the law of God or word of God. But this only comes from people, human clergy. So does it defy what the imams say, or what the rabbis say, or what the priests say? And then they don't agree with each other either. So it's do as I tell you, then it's moral. If I tell you that thou shalt not kill, that's moral. If I tell you to kill them, that's moral too, because divine command. They can't even.
There is nothing more immoral than divine command theory. It is one of the most obscene parodies of morality I think anyone has ever invented. But at the same time, I feel like it's intellectual training wheels for adults. Like, every concept you start super simplified and you kind of work your way in. You have to take a lot of things just on the word of whoever's teaching you. And that would be fine if they just grow up at some point and move past it. But they won't.
Yeah.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing that they're actually not consistent about that? Because they believe in divine command theory, but they're not really consistently. They'll be like, God says to do this, but I don't really feel like it.
Well, what's funny about that is that the argument is that they want to call it an objective standard. They say atheists don't have an objective standard, that only theists have an objective standard, but their objective standard is the subjective opinion of whoever is pretending to speak for God. And they don't agree with each other, and God doesn't agree with himself because he's constantly contradicting himself in the different books of the Bible even. So what is moral on one day is not moral the next, or is is the exact thing that he commands the next day that he told you the day before not to do. Thou shalt not kill, turn the page, kill every man and his brother.
Tomato. I mean, the truth of the matter is, it's really just a rather shabby rhetorical trick, because they want to keep people emotionally engaged with this idea of, if there's no God, everything is permitted, and then make you afraid. And it doesn't make me afraid, because I am fully capable of taking responsibility for my own actions. But it does make me a little afraid of believers because,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, sorry, it's scary that they've been set up to have this because I know what it's like. You end up having really good people feeling obligated to justify these horrific things because you have to defend God's morality for some fucking reason. He can't defend himself. And at the same time, they pretend that the opposite of objective is arbitrary. And it isn't. Subjective doesn't mean not based in reality. It means nuanced and based in a complex reality that isn't just, simple and straightforward and unthinking.
If you can't mutually agree on how to determine whether something is moral or immoral, or what is it about that thing that makes it moral or immoral, well, if you can examine this analytically and come up with the ways that, well, this is immoral because it causes harm or suffering or whatever, because it unnecessarily damages or victimizes people, whatever your reasoning. Once you determine what the objective standard is for what morality is, what the definition of morality is, you then turn it on God and find out that God is immoral. And that's why they won't agree to any definition of morality other than God said so.
He really does suck.
So then Mickey's Girl 2105 says, Lilith's photo is making me excited for Halloween.
Oh, thank you. I had a friend put that together just from some old photos. But I was joking before we started the cameras with the guys about dressing up as a sexy nun for Halloween. Not sure how sexy it would be.
Next Saturday show.
Oh, shit.
We'll talk about that, please.
We'll see. We'll see. It's not Halloween yet.
No, it's just like having another stream next week.
Okay.
Arn, I
the
think
next Saturday show.
Arn, I think if you ask that of Lilith, then you should join in it as well. Or is that a habit you won't get into?
No, he would have to be a satanic priest, but you do need to have the collar. All the other accoutrements you can wear whatever you want, but someone needs to be wearing a priest collar.
Okay, well, it would really disturb people if they knew the kind of stuff I could wear.
We all know the kind of stuff you could wear on.
That I have.
We've seen a lot of it already.
I can make an educated guess.
Okay, so Duke of Many Things says, Aaron Tomer, sorry, was the Judean people who survived or the people who survived from Judea splitters?
I felt like somebody
Judean
had to
people
make that
front.
joke. Yeah.
Then Shadow Slays offers $10, thank you, and says, Aaron Ra, it's Aaron. Some of your early videos helped me deconstruct. Thank you. I remember feeling atheist my entire life, but hid it from my family to protect their feelings. Thank you for the work you do and your friends do. Thank you very much. So that was extended to the rest of y'all. Thank you very much. And then my unfinished sock says, don't do horrific fucking things. Like and share the stream instead. While you still...
Yeah, don't be like God.
Okay. So on verse 6...
another one.
One more.
Oh, yeah,
one
yeah,
more.
sorry.
Yep. Jamie Wells pops up with a $10 offer. Thank you. Well said, Aaron, and I hope everyone is well today, and being off work to catch the show is fucking awesome too.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay, so on verse 6, Smith comments, quote,
What? You're not done with your commentary?
No, I'm not done with my commentary, Aaron.
Unfortunately
Unfortunately for you.
It's like the shortest chapter, but yes.
Yeah, there's a lot to say. I'm sorry. It's 7 pages, so give me a break. On verse 6, Smith comments, quote, in this prayer, Nehemiah did not address the present situation directly, the wall or the gate, as much as the root cause of the present situation, the problem of sins. But before Nehemiah began to confess these sins to God, he called on Yahweh to hear his humble confessions, similar to Solomon in 1 Kings 8:52, 2 Chronicles 6:40, or Hezekiah in Isaiah 37:14-17. In the light of the negative situation at Jerusalem, it probably seemed that Yahweh was far away or not concerned about the suffering and shame of his people in Jerusalem. So Nehemiah called for Yahweh to hear his prayer, to attend to his words, and to react with grace. He wanted God to do something positive for his people. The urgency and seriousness of this issue is evident in the terminology, for Nehemiah prayed this prayer again and again, day and night. Nehemiah's prayer characterizes himself as one of God's servants, and defined the topic of the prayer as related to Yahweh's covenant partner, Israel, your servant.
As a former believer, I can verify that they very much want you to be very emotionally engaged with this whole idea of begging God for forgiveness, etc., etc., etc. Lots of groveling, lots of. They really, really want to keep you down.
Yeah. On verse 8, although Nehemiah doesn't bring a direct quotation, several commentators take this verse to refer to verses in Deuteronomy, either 4:27, 28:64, or 31-5. Smith notes Pakala's opinion that Nehemiah's text of Deuteronomy was different from our present copy, i.e., Nehemiah's text represents the true text of the Pentateuch, and by this theory, the Pentateuch was not textually stable or fixed for most of biblical history. He writes, however, that it is equally, if not more likely, that Nehemiah was content to give an approximate paraphrase, rather than an exact quotation, and that the post-exilic standards for quoting a teaching were not as exact as our modern expectations. He further writes, quote, "The degree of intentionality in these allusions is a subject of debate, but at times the similarity of thoughts and phrases clearly indicates a conscious, direct reference back to an authoritative source from the Mosaic writings. The linguistic dependence on another text should not be pressed beyond what the culture and text can demonstrate. In most cases, direct linguistic dependence is difficult to prove, but when identical phrases appear, one can assume some level of dependence or influence. In this case, the source of the allusion is probably the text of Deuteronomy, which Nehemiah slightly adapted to fit the vocabulary of the post-exilic era." On verse 9, Fried comments, quote, "The notion of repentance as a return to God and his commandments, and of sin as the breaking off of one's relationship with him and ignoring his commandments, is a typical Deuteronomistic concept. The phrase, 'the ends of heaven,' refers to the farthest horizon. The author of Deuteronomy 4 and 28-30 has already experienced both the exile and the return. He knows what the exile has been a punishment for sin, and that the return was God's response to the people's repentance. Now, still in exile, Nehemiah reminds God of his promises to bring his people who had repented and who keep his commandments back to the land of Israel, to Jerusalem. Nehemiah relies on this promise to effect his own return to the land of his fathers. That Jerusalem is in dire straits and that many of the people Israel are still in exile from the land implies that God's promised redemption is not yet finished. Nehemiah pleads that it may be completed."
So, what's translated in here as farthest skies is the ends of heaven? In
Yeah.
verse 7? Or sorry, in verse 9?
Yeah, Biktzeh Shamayim, at the end, at the farthest of the heavens, or at the end of the heavens, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That to me is pretty interesting, right? I went over this in my biblical cosmology video, right? But like a lot of this stuff I didn't include. Like this kind of language was very common in very ancient periods. Like I think in the Sargon geography, for example, when they are talking about the extent of their land, I think they use a phrase that's very similar to that. So like in a context like this, especially, right? Like they're obviously talking about the in their opinion, the inhabitable world. So yeah, it's right. Yeah, as far as they could have thought things went. So it is like the phrasing ends of heaven. It's sorry, could you say it in Hebrew one more time, Tomer?
Biktseh hashamayim.
Okay. So it's different than the other one I was thinking of, but it is interesting that the phrasing kind of shows, even if we accept that it's idiomatic, it still kind of shows their it betrays their worldview.
Yeah, I could see that. I should note that Becking notes that the horizon of God's grace is drawn wide here. The expression ends of heaven is an inverse allusion to the curse of Deuteronomy 28:49, which argues that Israel will be expelled by a people living at the end of the earth. In using the word heaven, the distance to Jerusalem is further expanded, and the return seems to be an adinaton. Adinaton, I guess. Is that how you pronounce that? Adinaton, yeah, sorry. Okay. On verse 10, Becking argued that this verse contains an argumentum ad deum, quote unquote, i.e., arguments meant to persuade a deity because it aligns with the way gods were thought to be or thought to think. He writes that by proposing, in a rhetorical question and in traditional language, the people of Israel as once redeemed by great power and strong hand, Nehemiah appeals to God to cause another exodus. This, however, is rejected by Smith, who writes that Becking's approach, quote, reads a lot into what is stated in this request, end quote. And since the Hebrews who stayed in Babylon had the right to return to Jerusalem at any time. Harrington comments, quote, Nehemiah identifies himself in line with Moses by insisting that the people belonged to Yahweh, who has already invested himself in them. Compare Exodus 32:11 and Deuteronomy 9:29. Note the term redeemed, padita, which indicates reclaiming an item or person owned by someone else. Redemption may refer to purchasing a slave and giving him freedom, or to redeeming an item devoted to God, for example, all firstborn sons, by paying its value to the temple along with an extra percentage, as we see in Exodus 13:13-15, 34:20, compare Leviticus 27. The concept is applied metaphorically to God's rescue of Israel, who are no longer slaves to Egyptian masters, Deuteronomy 7:8, 9:26, 15:15, but have become Yahweh's possession. This notion is taken up as well by New Testament writers to describe the ultimate divine purchase and salvation of humanity by the death of Jesus in 1 Peter 1:18, Revelations 5:9, and 14:3 and 4.
And isn't that a nice, cheerful prospect? Remember, God bought you with blood. I don't want to know how that wallet works.
I see some comments, Oren.
Okay. So I've got my unfinished song says, Hail Aaron and the panel of scholars and misfits, and hail dad jokes. Thank you much for that. Shadow Slays offers $10 and says, Magician, bippity boppity, myth is reality, divine command is gross.
Did we read the one earlier from Jamie Wells? Did we read that?
Yeah.
We did? Okay.
Oh, maybe I didn't. I somehow missed that one. Sorry. Jamie Wells offers $10. Thank you. And says, well said, Aaron, and I hope everyone is well today, and being off work to catch the show is fucking awesome too. I think I did read that.
Yeah, we did read that, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was just asking. I wasn't sure. I wasn't saying you missed something.
Okay, on verse 11, this man. Have you seen this man in your dreams? The man is probably King Artaxerxes, according to Pseudo-Rashi, Ditani, and modern commentators. Fried notes that the reference to this man is unexplained. There is no antecedent, and the reference to today is odder yet, since apparently he has been praying for days, quote unquote. She writes that this verse, without "and to your prayer of your servants who delight in revering your name," was likely moved from 2:4. Only then is Nehemiah standing before the king, serving him his wine. And finally, I was cupbearer to the king. Commentators note that the cupbearer was a very honorable office in the Achaemenid Empire. Japhet notes that in a social and political system where power struggles and political assassinations are common, the cupbearer, who was responsible for the drinks given to the king, was the king's trusted man and was responsible for his safety. Hopefully Aaron has one. Becking writes that a glossator added this sentence, probably as a hinge to Nehemiah 2. He also notes that several commentators, like Myers, Rudolph, and Fensham, suggested that Nehemiah was a eunuch, because at ancient Eastern courts, high-ranked officials were often eunuchs, as well as Vaticanus and Origen reading eunuchus, compare Septuagint oinokus, or cupbearer. He writes, however, that since the book of Nehemiah doesn't make any further allusions to this motif, this proposal must be regarded as speculative, a view shared by many scholars like Williamson, Blenkinsop, Jagersma, and etc. Fried comments, quote, in the capacity of cupbearer to the king, Nehemiah has been labeled a court Jew, quote unquote, according to Smelik and Burt. That is, someone like Mordecai the Judean, who was second only to King Achashverosh, and who was, quote, great among the Judeans and popular with the majority of his brethren, for he sought the welfare of his people, end quote, in Esther 10:3. That is, being in a powerful position at court, Nehemiah, like Mordecai, would have been able to look out for the welfare of his people.
And being a cupbearer to the king can be a very dangerous job. Isn't that right, Tyrion?
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's just say Asia has a long history. Okay, Asia's not the only place, but Asia definitely has a long history of poisons in political struggles. I mean, I still think the funniest picture was that time where Kim Jong-un, was meeting with Vladimir Putin, and they're, smiling to the cameras, and then they both have a glass of champagne, and they lift it, and then they look down, and they look at each other, and they look down, and very smilingly set the glass down. Yes. Nobody's drinking shit at that meeting, which is fair. I wouldn't drink either.
Yeah.
But,
It's like the worst thing about the Second Amendment. Assassinations are just so boring now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you prefer if it was if they were assassinating each other rather than using guns?
I mean, it's like more showy and.
Well, I mean,
America's
one thing
always
it would
had a
mean there would be
thing
less
for-
political violence. Poisons are pretty difficult to work with.
Yeah.
But,
no. I'm working on
I
a
don't-
video on that right now.
oh,
Then Krint says,
I don't think you want to read that, Oren.
It's probably a bad idea.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then
it's
why
exact-
did Peter put it up here?
I put in
Because
there,
he
not too
added
sure
in-
about.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
It's probably best to stay off that topic.
Yep.
Yes.
Now that I
Sorry.
read it, yep.
I
There's a
apologize.
few upcoming.
Yeah, I felt that way. It's coming. Okay. Oh, sorry. I meant to shitpost. I'm
Oh.
going to do it a bit minimalistic this time because I'm not feeling very well. So, guess
Who's talking about Jesus? Jesus.
Guess
G.
who's talking about Jesus? I'm Jesus. I was preparing something, Peter. I do know what. Fuck it. No. You ruined it, Peter. You ruined it. Okay.
No,
so,
I didn't because what you didn't
You
see
did.
is in chat people are asking to make that the intro song. So
No.
That would be
it's
hard.
already the outro song.
No.
Okay.
So guess. You know, I'd make a wild guess. Who speaks here? Who's the?
Is it Beat again?
Yes, it is Pete. Very good.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Man. I was gonna
Look-
guess Theodore of Mopsuestia.
No. Although there is,
There is-
although there is origin here, surprisingly enough, but it's kind of boring.
Or
The salvation in Christ is open to Jews and Gentiles. Yeah, not very interesting.
Yeah.
So what does Bede have to say? So, by his words and deeds and person, Nehemiah plainly designates the mediator of God and people, our Lord Jesus Christ. The city of Susa symbolizes the defenses of the mind of the faithful, especially of those who are charged with the salvation of the souls that are occasionally snatched away from the church by the attacks of the devil. The words of Nehemiah literally describe his concern for Jerusalem, which was still undefended before its enemies, but typologically indicates the concern of those people in the Holy Church who are rightly afflicted because some of their neighbors still are subject to sins.
Oh, good. That's just what we need. Busybodies feeling like they're carrying on the self-righteous duties of a prophet. Wonderful.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Are we ready then to move on to the next chapter?
Please.
Please.
Shall I read this one too?
You shall.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, if you want to, you can, but otherwise, without volunteers, I'm not going to ask anybody anymore.
Yes. I mean, I can
No
read it.
volunteers.
So, chapter 2. In the month of Nisan,
Formerly known as Dotson.
in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was served him, I carried the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had never been sad in his presence before. So the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, since you are not sick? This can only be sadness of the heart." Then I was very much afraid. I said to the king, "May the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my ancestors' graves, lies waste and its gates have been destroyed by fire?" Then the king said to me, "What do you request?" So I prayed to the God of heaven. Then I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor with you, I ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of my ancestors' graves, so that I may rebuild it." The king said to me, the queen also was sitting beside him, "How long will you be gone, and when will you return?" So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a date. Then I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, let letters be given me to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they may grant me passage until I arrive in Judah." And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, directing him to give me timber to make beams for the gates of the temple fortress, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall occupy. And the king granted me what I asked, for the gracious hand of my God was upon me. Then I came to the governors of the province beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent officers of the army and cavalry with me. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official heard this, it displeased them greatly that someone had come to seek the welfare of the Israelites. So I came to Jerusalem and was there for 3 days. Then I got up during the night, I and a few men with me. I told no one what my God had put into my heart to do for Jerusalem. The only animal I took was the animal I rode. I went out by night by the valley gate, past the dragon's spring, and to the dung gate, and I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that had been broken down, and its gates that had been destroyed by fire. Then I went on to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but there was no place for the animal I was riding to continue. So I went up by way of the valley by night and inspected the wall. Then I turned back and entered by the valley gate, and so returned. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing. I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, the officials, and the rest of who were to do the work. Then I said to them, "You see the trouble we are in, how Jerusalem lies in ruins with its gates burned. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, so that we may no longer suffer disgrace. I told them that the hand of my God had been gracious upon me, and also the words that the king had spoken to me. Then they said, "Let us start building." So they committed themselves to the common good. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they mocked and ridiculed us, saying, "What is this that you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king?" Then I replied to them, "The God of heaven is the one who will give us success, and we are servants. And we, his servants, are going to start building, but you have no share or claim or memorial in Jerusalem." So yeah, that is chapter 2. Quite a few things here to
A
note.
lot, yeah.
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 So
8 pages.
proud of you, Tomer. Proud of you.
Thank you.
So one of the things I want to note was this. So it's not. I guess you'd call it an itinerary, right? Because he kind of lists out the places he's going and where he's inspecting. So you have these names that at the time would be probably fairly well known. Some of these aren't referenced in the biblical corpus, but some of them are. There have been some identifications, right? So I'll read out just a few of them that we have gotten over the years. Let's see here. So yeah, not everything is clear to us, nor are the authorities agreed on the precise locations. The Valley Gate, 2 Chronicles 26:9, has been placed at various points around the city. So yeah, they have a few, right? So they have a bunch of references, different scholars. It is most often located near the northwestern corner of the city of David. According to 313, the Dung Gate, apparently the same as the Potsherd Gate in Jeremiah 19:2, was some 500 yards away to the south. Hence, it must have been at the extreme southern end of the city. The direction of Nehemiah's night ride was out through the Valley Gate, thence towards the Dragon's Fountain, as far as the Dung Gate. The Dragon's Fountain, not elsewhere mentioned in the Bible, is generally identified with, and I'm going to mispronounce this. Sorry, Tomer. Enrogel.
Yeah.
Job's well, at the juncture of the Valley of Hinnom and the Kidron Valley. The Fountain Gate was some 150 yards north of the Dung Gate. And then it says that the Pool of the King is uncertain, but was certainly beyond the Fountain Gate. And you can, where the animal stops, there has been a suggestion. It's pretty old now, so I'm not sure how accurate it is, but there's been the suggestion that the reason that the animal couldn't keep going was specifically because of the ruins that had been left by the Babylonians. But this itinerary is interesting to me because there are some political ramifications for this, right? Because if you are identifying like culturally significant locations for the city, it already kind of solidifies a lot, like multiple ideological realities, you could say, right? Maybe not ideological, maybe that's the wrong word for it. But like in the same way that the borders of ancient Israel were kind of spelled out in Joshua, you have a similar thing here for the rebuilding of the city. And there are some textual variants, right? The most interesting one to me is actually, so it's in the Septuagint, right? Where the Dragon's Gate, I'm sure that Tomer and Isaac can go into that more, but the translation in the Septuagint is so it is noted that it would be the gate of the fig tree.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, in Septuagint, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The fig trees. Because the Hebrew
the jackals
is
one or the
the Hebrew is Ein Hatanin, So Tanin, like
Oh,
can
Tanin.
refer to
Yeah.
like
Okay. Gotcha.
yeah, so that the Tanin can refer to like the like sea monsters of the that, but yeah, and because fig tree in Hebrew it's te'enim, so I guess it read te'enim instead of Tanin.
But Tanin is also can mean jackal.
According to JPS, at least, I couldn't really find another who says that it refers to jackals. I don't even think that Halot specifies
to have that as well.
I don't know if wait. I don't think
it
that
wouldn't
even
make
Halot
that much
has
sense
it.
to have a valley of sea monsters in Jerusalem, or even a valley of crocodiles.
I mean, it really
in Jerusalem doesn't sound very
No,
accurate.
I think the most interesting thing to me, right, when it talks about this fountain, it's not actually super clear in the Septuagint, right? Because it says that okay, so the word that's used there is well, one of these is actually a transliteration,
valley.
right? So
Fountain,
golela in the Greek, right? I'm pretty sure that's just a transliteration, because it doesn't mean anything in Greek.
where exactly?
Verse 13, yeah.
No, actually.
No, it's not a transliteration.
No. What? Wait.
Which word is
Golela. Oh, it's Hagai Laila. Yeah. It's. I mean, sorry. It's a kind of a transliteration, but it's quite a bad
It's
one.
two words put
because
together.
Hagai. Yeah, it's two words. Hagai and Laila.
Gotcha.
But
gotcha.
though there is a version of the Lucianic recension, which according to BHQ it is an amplification of the Septuagint, and I'll post it here in chat. Maybe Lance can read it.
I'll get to that in just a second here.
Yeah.
Although after that it says and to the mouth of and this word peges could be translated as fountain or river. It's any kind of running water. So the
like a spring, yeah.
Yeah, but the idea here, they're when they say the word mouth of it, right? Because they say stoma, right? Prostoma peges. So because they use the word mouth, it kind of sounds like they're talking about a river. But I guess I'm not entirely sure. But that's just what it kind of.
The Hebrew is
right?
we've
said this before, right? Like this Alpane can mean like upon the surface of something, but it could also be a bit more like, it's not poetic, but it's like just meaning towards, in a sense, like turning to the face of.
I'm telling you the variant in the Septuagint is the thing.
Right, it's interesting.
Yes. So I'm not telling you what the original is. I'm telling you that there's a significant difference, right? But when they say, but then they say ton sukon, and that's of the fig trees.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so to Gelela Nuktos night. Yeah. The night, and I'm God. What was Gelela translated as, or what were they?
Hagai Laila.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like, I mean, the Hebrew. I don't know. Is this Hebrew like written well? It's like, and I went out through the gate of the valley.
Yeah.
And then it just says Lila, which means night. So
I'm impressed that Lawrence can read, like Roman numerals, and then Russian Cyrillic, and then Greek Cyrillic, and the change would fuck with me.
I mean, the thing, you get used to it. So it's not really that big of a deal. I mean, hey, Isaac and Tomer can read Hebrew. I can barely read the script, right? Like, it takes me a while to just sound out like a word, and even then, I usually do it wrong. So.
Okay.
Are you demurring from a compliment because you're not completely fluid and fluent in all 5 languages?
That's how Lawrence is.
If once I learn all the languages I need to learn, then I will say, I'm really good at these. But as of right now, no, it's nothing impressive.
I mean, reading Greek, I think, is quite impressive because
I'm getting my crop. I'm going to hit you until you believe in yourself.
Greek has a lot of letters.
Well, as long as we're threatening each other with a good time.
Jamie Wells says, "When the fuck was God's hand ever gracious?"
Only when things have already went your way.
Okay.
Yes, it's always a good retcon. God was gracious, so I got to have whatever the fuck it was I wanted.
Jamie Wells adds, vengeful and angry, definitely. Gracious, no.
I also did want to, before we move on to some other commentary, I also did want to note this weird, okay, so these guys that, come up against him, right? Sambalat, Tobiah, Geshem, they, instead of just saying, like, essentially, trust me, bro, he's got these letters. Like, he has ways to prove that, like, he has the authority to do this. But instead, he's going with oh, it was actually God. That's why I have the authority. Like you got like permission from the king. Use that. They're gonna believe that more.
No, you might be trying to impress the locals.
Well, I've got Lawrence on here. I also want to make some paleontological news. There was a prehistoric crocodile named after, well, it's called Lemisuchus.
What?
Let me see.
Because paleontology is metal.
Yeah, I guess.
We'll go with a Lemmy plus Suka. Bitch in Russian.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start with verse 1. When wine was brought before him. The Masoretic text reads, wine before him. In Hebrew, yain lefanav. The sentence seems to be cut off, and its exact meaning is unclear. Septuagint reads, and wine was before me, and I took the wine and gave it to the king. Japhet writes that while this construction is possible, the phrase wine before him could be understood elliptically, intending to explain the background for Nehemiah's request. Peshitta reads, I was serving wine before the king, which Fried takes to be the original Hebrew text. She writes that if this is the case, then only one word has dropped, I was serving, in Hebrew, mashke. She further writes, quote, the story of Nehemiah the Jew in the court of a foreign king belongs to the well-known Hellenistic genre of the alien in the foreign court, of which Esther, Daniel, and Judith are other well-known examples. Nevertheless, Herodotus records in 389 that part of the taxes that the satrapy of Babylon had to pay to Susa each year was 1,000 talents of silver plus 500 castrated boys. These boys were taken from their nuclear family and raised in the palace. It seems natural to suppose that since they were to be castrated, that Babylon would have sent foreign boys first before sending native Babylonians. The talented among them achieved a high position at court. It is possible that Nehemiah was one such boy, although I personally think that this is not widely accepted, and it's like maybe, but like it's unclear.
I mean, people really don't want to imagine, particularly in this really patriarchal, highly insecure, male-centered religion, people really don't want to think of their prophets as having been castrated, regardless of what the actual historical context would have been.
And the purpose behind it, right? If we can even call it that. The repugnant practices that humans subject each other.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite common for, like, in the palaces of kings and emperors, that because they would have a lot of concubines and stuff like that, like, all the male servants within the palace would have to be eunuchs, in a sense. So, the king's butler, the king's, maybe not the bodyguards, but, like, most of the male servants in the palace would have been eunuchs.
It's
so
true.
If you had someone who rose up,
at least that had the somewhat realistically based idea of making sure that since you couldn't possibly keep all of your concubines happy, if they had some fun, at least it wouldn't result in an illegitimate offspring.
Yeah, just
And as Jamie Lannister so cleverly observed, it's all about the cock.
Yeah.
It really is.
I don't know about in I don't know about the Persian in Persia, but sometimes not only were the concubines themselves like untouchable, but the all of the female servants in the palace were also considered like the king's property, and therefore they, while serving in the palace, can't have any affiliation with any men either. So in a sense, you had a whole like mini city of women, and so all of the men there had to be eunuchs as well.
It's true. All the women in the palace would have been part of like the harem. They would have all lived in the harem, even if they were just
Yeah.
the cook or the cleaning girl or the maid who poured tea for the minor officials.
Yeah, because if the king wanted to, he could just take any servant girl and make her a concubine.
Oh, he could, but he wasn't going to do that with all of them, just for practical reasons, if nothing else.
Yeah. But theoretically, he could if he wanted to. So therefore, they are, in a sense, sacred.
Oh, I suppose if he wanted to, he could also marry off those who he did not, take as concubines at some point as, a potential reward to a minor prelate or something. There would have been different social rules about that in different kingdoms.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, either way,
Yeah, and
you still
in
have
some
to behave
societies,
as,
like in the Qing dynasty, like the servants would have come from noble families themselves. So they were working as servants, but they wouldn't have been like the lowest rung of society. They would have been like mid-level.
no.
So
it
who
would have still been a
decides
credit.
about out all of these little boys? Who decides what they're going to do this terrible torture to? Tying that incredibly tight string that cuts off their balls and penis. Who?
Well,
Who
it
makes
just
that
has to be the balls. It's not always the beans and sausage. Sometimes it's just the beans. But I hate to say it, but in the weirdest way, in various points in history, at various times and places, it has actually been a thing of tremendous status that people have volunteered their sons for, and not just in royal courts. I mean, many of the male roles in opera sung by mezzo-sopranos now were originally written for castrati, who were young boys. Whichever boy in the choir had the most beautiful voice, you'd take his balls before they dropped, and then he would always keep that voice, but he would gain the lung capacity of a man. And then, it was, he would make a ton of money, and he would never have any illegitimate children. But also,
Yeah, I mean, on one side, there might have been some, there would have been times where it would have been a great honor, and it was a bit like, becoming a priest, where you're not going to have a family of your own at any point. But in other times, in other places, there was a lot of like human trafficking going on. Starving families would sell their children to whoever would pay, and sometimes those would end up getting jobs as eunuchs in becoming eunuchs and getting jobs in palaces, and sometimes they would end up in brothels. So,
as Jake Blues so eloquently put it, how much for the little girl?
Yeah.
It'll be your children.
The poor could even justify that to some degree of I literally cannot afford to feed you. I have to sell you to someone who can feed you, which is fucked. But
I've had to sell you all for medical experiments.
In a world before, human rights and even the concept of, emancipation, like the idea of that you are your own person, you belong to yourself, then this was something that people that had lived with.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was. And I think in the case of, particularly with Israel, coming back to the Bible world, that would have been in part a power play also, because remember when the initial people were taken out by Babylon during the initial exile, there was like a first round where they took like the prominent families, the rich and powerful, and left, most of the city there, just to go about their business, and then they ramped it up and took everybody but the poor. But you could say that, oh, we're going to take your sons and educate them and make them our ministers, and that sounds great until you realize that I'm also simultaneously ending your line.
Right.
Okay, still on verse 1. I have not been sad in his presence before. In the Masoretic text has velo haiti ra lefanav, literally, and I was not bad or evil before him. There are several difficulties with this phrase. First, the statement that Nehemiah wasn't bad before him seems to contradict the following verses, which describe Nehemiah as having bad face, in Hebrew panim ra'im. Marcus notes that some scholars either interpret lo as the asseverative lu, surely, according to Myers, or take the entire phrase as a pluperfect. I had never been sad in his presence, according to Pseudo-Rashi, NRSV, and most modern commentators. Vulgate omits the lo, reading, I was as one languishing away before his face. Second, the word ra, bad or evil, is never used to describe a person's mood. Instead, the phrase panim ra'im is used, as seen in verses 2, 3, Genesis 47, and Ecclesiastes 7:3. Septuagint reads, and there was no one else before him, reading re'a, friend. Marcus, however, rejects this reading, since, according to verse 6, the king was not alone, but was accompanied by his consort. The Lucianic recension combines both readings, and there was no other before him, and I was gloomy.
So don't sulk in front of your boss unless he really likes you.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Okay, on verse 2, this can be nothing but sadness of heart. The Masoretic text reads, this is nothing but a bad or evil heart. In Hebrew, en ze ki im ro'a lev. Some traditionals, like Pseudo-Rashi and Ditrani, understood ro'a here to mean evil, i.e., quote, that you have in your heart to put me to death by poisoning this cup, end quote, according to Pseudo-Rashi. Likewise, Vulgate reads, this is not without cause, but some evil, I know not what, is in thy heart, end quote. However, Gersonides wrote that the king said this out of concern for Nehemiah, but since Nehemiah thought that the king spoke out of anger and hatred, he was afraid. Likewise, Becking writes that, in parallel with the phrase ro'a panim, sad face, in Ecclesiastes 7:3, and the fact that Hebrew is a language in which words for body parts may be used to indicate the recurring pronoun, makes it clear that this concerns Nehemiah's sadness. Fried, however, notes that the king is naturally suspicious. He fears everyone around him, and he naturally fears his wine steward most of all. On verse 3, the city where my ancestors are buried. Nehemiah does not explicitly refer to Jerusalem by its name. Harrington argued that this makes the matter to be a personal issue, and keeping the matter generic allows the king to save face. Becking argues that Nehemiah indirectly appeals to the monumental tomb culture of the Persians. He notes that the graves of several Persian kings still exist today, such as that of Cyrus the Great in Pasargad, and those of Artaxerxes I, Darius I, and Xerxes in Naksh-Erustam, 12 kilometers north of Persepolis. He notes that Kellerman saw the reference to the tombs of Nehemiah's ancestors as a sign that he was of Davidic origin. He notes, however, that nothing in the rest of Nehemiah indicates such a lineage. On verse 4, Becking comments, quote, Nehemiah's response to the king's question has a complex communicative structure. He prays to God and speaks to the king. The fact that he prays to the God of heaven forms a connection with his prayer in Nehemiah 1, according to Sheffield and Wright. The content of prayer in 2:4 is not given. Perhaps the words to the Persian king may be seen to be the content of the prayer. This complex communication shows that, for the narrator of Nehemiah 2, there was a collaboration between heavenly and earthly powers. The combination of prayer to God and speaking to the king functions narratively as the beginning of the opening of a door on the way to the solution of the problem sketched. With this prayer, Nehemiah presents himself once more as a devout person. Laird argues that this focus upon prayer would have been a compensation for Nehemiah not being a priest, and yet taking the lead. I would add that the narrator also presents Nehemiah as a role model for a new Judean identity.
Yeah, definitely.
On verse 5, the city in Judah where my ancestors are buried. Nehemiah does not state the city's name, though in Josephus' account he does in Antiquities 11:165. Fried notes that some commentators suggest that this is because Jerusalem was a rebellious and evil city, quote-unquote, according to the letter that Rehum sent to Artaxerxes in Ezra 4:12. She writes, however, that since the authentic letter must be placed to the time of Artaxerxes, this cannot be the reason for omitting the name of the city. She writes that most likely there was no need to mention Jerusalem once Judah was mentioned, since Jerusalem was Judah's major city at the time of the Achaemenids. On verse 6, the queen sitting beside him. The word translated to queen is shegal. This is not the usual word for queen, which is malka, and is elsewhere used in Psalms 45:10, and possibly Judges 5:30, reading tzavarei shagal instead of tzavarei shalal, according to Halot. The word shagal is a loanword for Akkadian shah ekali, royal consort on concubine, and in Mishnah Hebrew, shagalonot refers to, quote, women who sleep around, end quote, in Talmud Sanhedrin 95b. Yes. Some commentators identify this consort with Damaspia, the wife of Artaxerxes I, according to Harrington, or Artemis, Xerxes' wife, who was the queen mother, according to Fried. The exact reason for mentioning the consort here is unclear. Smith notes Fensham's opinion that either she served as a witness to the king's agreement with Nehemiah, or that her presence indicates that this happened at some banquet or party, or that banquet or party, or that she favored Nehemiah. So Nehemiah waited to speak to the king until she was present. Fried suggested that this may reflect the Greek stereotype of Artaxerxes I, that he was overly influenced by the women around him. Japhet notes that many commentators debated if the mention of the queen here indicates that Nehemiah was a eunuch, since according to what we know, all the government officials who had access to the women's harem were eunuchs. In contrast, the Bible has a negative stance towards eunuchs in Deuteronomy 23:2, though is explicitly rejected in Isaiah 56:4 and 5. As noted, however, in 1:11, we have no other information that Nehemiah was a eunuch, and the fact that Nehemiah was together with the queen is not enough to determine that, since the king was also there.
Yeah, to be fair, I doubt he's going to bang the queen while pouring the king's wine.
Yeah, but it would have been a job that he would have kept him in the palace, like, full time.
Yeah,
so
no,
it would make
you're
sense
right.
that
It's
he
very
was.
likely he was.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, like, the word. You said that the word shagal is like, it means like a concubine or a queen, but it could also mean someone who sleeps around, which is a bit like the English
According
word
to Mishnah Hebrew,
consort.
at least.
Because the word the consort can refer to like someone's wife or a concubine, but it also can refer to a prostitute. So
it does have some slur implications depending on usage.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Also very on brand for the Bible
word?
to be rude about any woman it mentions.
Am I thinking of a different word? Is the word consort also used for
Pilegesh, maybe?
No, the English word consort is it also used for prostitutes or not? Or am I just thinking of escort? Yeah, maybe.
Escort, definitely. A consort,
Consort
might be.
be.
It's kind of an antiquated word. Like if you were having an affair and I wanted to speak in front of children and not be understood, I might use that kind of language.
Right.
Okay, on verse 8, Asaph, the keeper of the king's park. Asaph is a Hebrew name, attested frequently in the Hebrew Bible, mostly by Levitical singers. Smith writes that it is possible that Asaph was an Israelite who was running the royal forest. The word for king's park is pardes, which is a loanword from Old Persian paridaida and Avestan pairdeza, walled terrain. The word is elsewhere used in Song of Songs 4:13 and Ecclesiastes 2:5, and refers to walled gardens, royal parks, or domains in other ancient Near Eastern records. On verse 10, Sanballat the Horonite. Sanballat is mentioned several times in Nehemiah, usually by his name only, as we see in 3:33, 4:1, 6 verses 1, 2, 5, 12, and 15, and sometimes by his designation as Horonite, as we see in 2 verses 10 and 18 and 13:28. The name is a well-attested Babylonian name, Sin-Balit, meaning sin revived, and appears in cuneiform documents deep into the Persian era. Becking notes that the name would be a reference either to Horonaim in Moab, to Haran in northern Mesopotamia, according to Fried, or to the deity Horon. He writes, however, that the traditional view that Horonite refers to a person with genealogical roots in Low or High Beth Horon in Ephraim is the most plausible. This view is shared by Japhet and Smith. Harrington writes that Horon may refer to Haran, an area east of the Sea of Galilee, according to Ezekiel 47, 16, and 18, and may also refer to Sanballat's syncretism, i.e., worship of both Yahweh and the Canaanite god Horon. Commentators generally take Sanballat to be a historical figure. Fried notes that Sanballat is identified by several ancient sources as the governor of the province of Samaria, though Fensham lists 3 Sanballats who ruled over Samaria. A letter sent from the Judeans at Elephantine on November 25th, 407 BCE, from TADA 42729 states, quote, "Moreover, we sent all these words in one letter in our name to Delaiah and Shelemiah, sons of Sanballat, governor of Samaria." End quote. She concludes that Sanballat was governor of Samaria at least in 407 BCE, and most likely from 445 at the time of Nehemiah. Another seal of a bulla from Wadi Dalieh, WD 22, might refer to Sanballat, though the text is unclear. Yeah.
Got a comment from Shadow Slays, offers $5 and says, "Been learning about Egyptian mythology. Do you know about the Theban triad? Seems similar to the Christian Trinity. Interesting to learn story origins."
So, yes, but the thing is, it doesn't really matter too much, and here's why: because they had I forget what the words are, right? But they had like an octoad, right? In some cities, where they had like this, where the high gods were like in that city where there were 8. They were 8 in number. Then some places had 9. It differed from place to place. It's not significant.
So their triad, are you saying
Wesh was 1?
That
right?
the Egyptian
so.
triad is not in any sense similar to the Hindu trimurti?
I don't
It's
know
more
enough
similar
about
to
the
that, I
Hindu
think,
triad.
than it is to the
In the
to
Hindu
Trinity.
trimurti, you have 3 individual characters: Shiva, Rama, and Brahma, the creator, the sustainer, and the destroyer.
Oh, sure, gotcha.
They are all part of one Godhead, one unified Godhead, but they are not the same person. They're different beings. They have different wives. They have different lives, and so forth.
Yeah, it does get a little different with Hindu mythology, right? Because like their Brahman, right, is this kind of it's not necessarily even like a god. It's just like the essence of all existence.
That's actually a different Brahma. The word Brahman or Brahma is used for the unified all existence that is the dream of Brahma or the personification of Brahma, but also for the specific member
For the
of
one
their
member, yeah, I know.
kind of trinity. So it's 2 different uses
not
of the
spelled
same. It's like
different?
how
They are spelled different. Yeah, no. What I'm saying is that with the philosophy of everything just being an emanation, essentially, or I think they call it lila, right? Like the interplaying of this stuff, this existently essence, or this essence of the essence of existence. That would be kind of similar to the Trinitarian Godhead, but the thing is, it applies to everything that exists. So it's still different. Yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock in that kind of stuff. I try to stay away from parallelomania. So you actually have to like show a lot of things. You have to show some pretty specific things to start making ties like that. To show dependence, at least.
The Christian Trinity is uniquely bonkers. So, like,
it is.
I don't think comparing it to it. Yeah.
I think it would have been, if it was influenced from either of these, I would think it would have been more influenced from Persian and through, like, Hindu through influencing Persian, influencing Greek, as opposed to through Egyptian lines. But again, that's not direct copying or anything like that. We're talking about ideas floating around, shading other ideas.
Because they would have needed to come up with something that explained.
I mean, the Trinity.
They have their own developments.
The simplest form of the Trinity was a "you're all right, now stop fighting." You know what I'm talking about, Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm simplifying, but I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it would have been so much simpler if it was just seen as like a Hindu system where Jesus is just an avatar of Yahweh.
Yeah,
like
that
Vishnu
would
was
have
an
been.
avatar of
But
Ram.
that would have raised theological questions about the degrees of divinity and humanity. So they just had to directly contradict reason and say everyone was right, and anyone who didn't accept that they were all 100% right would be killed and their books burned. The Christian way.
Sorry, I got that the other way around. Vishnu is not an avatar of anyone. He's
No, that was
he's
not
the
Vishnu, it was-
god that comes down as an avatar. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there
Oh.
was legends that Buddha was an avatar of Vishnu, and that Jesus was an avatar of Vishnu, and so there's religions like to appropriate successful legends that are told of other religions.
That's not the
It's called
version of Jesus
syncretism.
that ended up in Japan, is it?
I didn't hear the whole question.
That's not the version of Jesus that ended up in Japan, is it?
I doubt it. Shadow Slays says, "Okay, thank you for helping me learn more about story origins." And I think that thank you goes more to Lawrence. So
You can always learn more if you subscribe to my channel, the Behold Network.
behold.
Behold!
Oh!
Gotta give it some oomph.
Okay, so
Okay.
are we?
No.
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 Why?
No. Because we're on verse 10. Okay. Tobiah
Okay,
the
halfway.
Ammonite official. Yeah. The Masoretic text reads, Tobiah the Ammonite servant or slave. In Hebrew, Tovia ha'eved ha'amoni. The name Tobiah is a Hebrew name meaning Yahweh is good, appearing several times in the Bible. In Nehemiah, Tobiah is often called the Ammonite or the Ammonite servant, and may indicate that he lived in Ammon, rather than being an Ammonite, according to Japhet, though Chazal in Talmud Kiddushin 70a taught that he was a non-Jew, but Pseudo-Rashi called him a wicked Israelite, quote-unquote. Harrington writes that the Tobiats wielded considerable power in Ammon, even as late as Ptolemy II in 259 BCE. She writes that despite these Ammonite connections, Tobiah had strong family ties to the Jerusalem community and their god Yahweh, and that Tobiah was most likely ethnically mixed. Fried writes that the word Eved translates the Persian bandaka, literally subject, servant, or slave. The term frequently appears in Darius's Behistund inscription, where these so-called slaves are usually sent to the head of an army to subdue a rebellion. She writes that being the slave of the king, quote-unquote, can be one of the highest officials in the empire, second only to the king himself. Thus, Tobiah may have been a high official of the Persian Empire and likely the governor of Ammon, commanding a garrison. And Peshitta has the Ammonite man.
I mean, maybe Nehemiah was just like, making fun of him. He's like, yeah, he's some governor of Ammon, but like he's just a servant.
I kind of like that idea. Like,
Yeah, talking smack is kind of par for the course.
Especially because if they were both kind of from the same, like, he was coming in as a governor who's coming on behalf of the king, and then he sees like a low-ranking official, like, yeah.
Everybody's low ranking compared to you if your ego is big enough.
yeah, just let me check. Yeah, okay. So, okay. On verse 13, Jackalwell. In the Masoretic text reads, Ein HaTanin, literally the Tanin spring. This place is mentioned only here in the Bible, and its exact location is unclear. Fried notes that some identified it with the biblical En Rogel, slanderous spring, as we see in Joshua 15:7, 18:6, and 1 Kings 1:9. Present-day Bir Ayub. She writes, however, that this location is unlikely, since its spring is about 200 yards south of the confluence of the Hinnom and Kidron, of the Hinnom and Kidron valleys. She writes that this may refer to a spring that had once lain between the valley and the dung gates, but no longer existed. The word tanin may refer either to a snake or serpent, according to Becking and Smith, a dragon, according to Vulgate, Peshitta, KJV, NRSV, Fried, Harrington, and Hallott, or a jackal, according to NIV and JPS.
Let me ask you about that, Omer.
Yes.
Because I'm seeing an awful lot of overlap. Serpent in English, in Old English at least, can refer to lizards as well as snakes, and on some occasions even to crocodilians. To my understanding, the tanin refers either when they say to dragons or to snakes. Dragons are snakes by some interpretations. I mean, like the cobra is considered a dragon depending on the translation. Can you clarify?
I don't really think that tanin refers to like a snake, if I remember correctly, because snake, you already have the Hebrew nachash to refer to a snake. I would most likely, so I would most likely take it to be like a certain sea monster or sea dragon, though there is, according to, at least to Hallott, it could refer to serpent. At least we see in Exodus 7 verses 9, 10, and 12, and Psalms 91:13. You also have Chamat Taninim, which is snake venom, according to Deuteronomy, as we see in Deuteronomy 32:33. But it could also be just, tanin is, in modern Hebrew at least, it refers to crocodiles as well, as we also see that in Ezekiel 29:3 and 32:2.
And more subtly in Job.
Some people also like to translate it as whales, especially in Genesis. Which is funny.
I mean, I could maybe like in reference to a sea monster or sea dragon.
Yeah, because the tanin is also, used to describe like you referenced the sea monster, right? But like the primordial one, right? There are some, I think there are some cognates in some other languages of the region.
Yeah, that makes
sense. There's a really good book from Robert, I think it's from Robert Miller. It's called, I think it's from Robert Miller, I think that's his name. It's called The Dragon, the Mountain, and the Nations. It was I use that a lot for my studies, and it was actually recommended to me by Dan McClellan. I asked him in like one of his live streams, like, hey, I'm doing this kind of project, do you have any books to recommend? And he recommended that one, and it was really good. So it talks a lot about essentially the chaos conf. That's the motif of like a not necessarily creative battle between a high god and a dragon. Essentially, it doesn't always have to end in the creation of something. Sometimes it does, but there like you see that myth in some form almost everywhere. So it kind of talked about its development in different parts of the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that the biblical usage or Hebrew usage of the word could have changed over time, because in Genesis it seems to imply something that lives in the sea, right? Which and created, it's created on the day with all of the fish, all the sea creatures. So you would imagine it's some sort of sea monster rather than, let's say, a crocodile or a snake. But it also seems to be used quite common as like a word. So, maybe it is something that people would have known, like rather than something mythological, maybe it was the word that people use for like a regular animal. And then it would, that could have changed over time.
You've seen some of those pictures that Arn has put up of some of the giant river crocodiles. Those would qualify as a sea monster. There's like I don't even know how many people were standing the length of that one. It was like a whole village.
Right. I mean, just like in the Bible, like there's no such thing as a bird, but there's no such word as bird. It's just things that fly,
flyer.
And that includes what we call birds, bats, as well as certain insects like locust. And then you've got there's no such thing as a fish.
In Hebrew,
Sorry?
there is no such word as
in the
bird?
Bible. In the Bible.
In the Bible, okay.
Yeah, the word "off" just means like flying thing. It's very similar to. Is it related to the word for wing or am I?
I'm just really surprised that it would be things that flies and that it wouldn't be that bird is the word.
No, wait.
Yeah.
Well, we all know that the bird is the word.
I don't think that's true, Isaac.
I also
Because
have
we-
Burns' word merch.
That what?
There is tzipor.
Oh yeah. You're right. There is a word. The word "sipor" means a bird, but is that used?
It also mentions kinds of ravens, which I think is amusing.
But the Bible
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
use it. The word
It is.
"sipor"
It
for
does
birds,
use it. It does use it. It does use it.
Look,
Deuteronomy 20.
Right.
I don't claim to support the Bible, but let's not project onto this text whatever nonsense Hovind has come up with to try and wring some kind of meaning out of the word kind.
And while we are talking about sea monsters, maybe Peter will put in my link. I just came out with a video like yesterday on Triassic sea monsters, and it took me like 2 weeks to make this video. 2 weeks of effort to make this video. And it got like a third as many views as any drama video that I might make. If I just turn on the camera myself and rant like an idiot, well, no, that'll get huge plays. But something that I actually put work into, nah, not so much.
Art, I beat you to it. I already put that in chat the moment you posted it in the private chat here.
I'm going to watch it soon after the show. I'm really excited because I love your videos on biology, paleontology. You have taught me so much that, like, more than my education system would have taught me, but I also had the creationist mind block. So I've had to play a lot of catch up, and you have helped me very much with that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you sincerely. And then Shadow Slays says, Aaron Ra, you're going to hell for that bird is the word joke.
Oh, even worse, go on to TikTok. I think it might actually have been a Christian creator, but there is a literal explanation of how Jesus is the Word, and the Word is God, and God is the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit comes down as a dove. So it's far more wittily put together, but
okay.
By the way, Isaac, the word "sipor" appears also. The word "sipor" also appears in Isaiah 31:5 and Psalms 102:8.
Right. But yeah, I mean, you could argue that the word "sipor" is equivalent to a bird, as in it's something that lays eggs, has feathers, and beaks. It
and has a nest.
All of that stuff. Yeah, it lays nests and stuff like that. So if it's a one-to-one with what we call birds, then you could say, okay, the Hebrew word, the Bible used the word "sipor" for bird, but it never uses that word when it says bats are. But it doesn't say bats are birds. It says bats are off, which means flying creature.
Yeah, something fun.
So it's wrong to say that the Bible says that bats are.
Does that include grasshoppers?
I can't remember where it uses the word "off" to refer to grasshoppers, but I think it does.
Okay.
It definitely talks about like four-winged or four-legged birds or something like that, which is wrong because grasshoppers have 6 legs. But yeah,
back to Nehemiah, please.
Yeah.
Okay. On that same verse, on verse 13, Dung Gate, in Hebrew, Shah HaShpot. This place is only mentioned in Nehemiah in 3 verses 13 and 14 and 12:31. According to Halot, the word refers either to Ashtip, as we see in 1 Samuel 2:8 and Psalms 1137, or to heaps of garbage and manure, as we see in Lamentations 4:5. Commentators generally take this gate to be the gate through which trash was carried out and dumped into the Hinnom Valley, located on the southeastern tip of the city of David. Fried and Japhet identified it with the potsherd gate, found in Jeremiah 19:2, since broken pottery may have been the main item tossed. On verse 16, Becking comments, quote, Nehemiah conceals these plans for 2 groups. Firstly, for the Persian authorities who are presented here as in Ezra 9:2 as Seganim, city rulers, the role or function is not specified here. Of the Judeans, however, different groups are mentioned. A translation of Yehudim with Jews, as we see in KJV and Williamson, is an anachronism, as it was first in the Hellenistic era that Judaism became a religion. Among them are the priests next to all kinds of secular officials. The role of the Chorim, nobles, in post-exilic society is unclear. They are mentioned only in the book of Nehemiah. Their mention in 1 Kings 21 also is not illuminating. The second mention of Seganim, leaders, seems to refer to a group of Judeans. The author of Nehemiah leaves aside the reason why Nehemiah has kept all these people ignorant of the purpose of his inspection. On verses 17 and 18, Smith comments, quote, When the appropriate time came, Nehemiah addressed the people of Judah with a hortatory discourse and tried to motivate them to get to work on the wall. He reviewed the evidence in order to persuade them to contribute their time and energy to complete the wall. First, he legitimated a need for a change in their thinking by reminding them that the city was in ruins and the wooden gates were burned and useless. Second, he enthusiastically invited everyone, using the imperative come, lechu, to join in and volunteer to help build the wall so that they could remove the shameful status of the city. Third, Nehemiah reminded his audience of the spiritual basis for his visit to Jerusalem in order to convince them that his mission had Yahweh's endorsement. The unusual circumstances that brought him to Jerusalem, his meeting with Hanani, his months of prayer, Artaxerxes' approval of his plan, and his safe journey, were more than a series of coincidental accidents of history. Yahweh had providentially allowed all of these things for a purpose. On verse 19, Geshem the Arab, in Hebrew, Geshem ha'aravi. In 6:6, he is called Gashmu, read in the Arabic nominative. We find Geshem in several extra-biblical sources, such as an Aramaic inscription from Egypt from the 5th century on a silver scale, stating that Kanyu, the son of Geshem, brought the king of Kedar an offering to the god, quote-unquote, also a North Arabic coin from the 4th century with the name Geshem, and a Lichyanite inscription mentioning Gashmu, son of Shachar, as governor of Dedan. Japhet writes that it is most likely that he was the king of Kedar, and that he was the governor of the district of Arab. Harrington, quoting Myers, writes that Geshem would unite the northern Arabian tribes into a, quote, vast confederation, covering the entire area around the eastern and southern regions of the Dead Sea as far as the Nile Delta, end quote. Smith, however, writes that it is impossible to know whether these extra-biblical sources refer to the biblical Geshem. He writes that if this is the case, then Nehemiah was opposed from the north, Sanballat, east, Tobiah, and south, Geshem. He writes, however, that it would be a little odd for a person ruling so far away from Judah to be upset with Nehemiah for building a wall.
Yeah, it might have been a common Arabian name. Or if it was referring to an actual king, then it could have just been like, the people who wrote this were like, yeah, there was a Arab king around that time, so we'll just stick him in the story.
Yeah. And finally, on verse 20, Becking comments, quote, The closing remark of this verse is of a religious judicial nature. In mentioning three concepts, Nehemiah rejects the claims that Samaria might have had on Jerusalem. The first term, chelek, share, refers to the traditional view of the distribution of the promised land and to the social code surrounding the inheritance rights in ancient Israel. Joshua 18:5 states that the land must be divided into 7 chalakim, and that Judah and Joseph cannot dispute each other's territory. In Micah 2:4, it is a part of the prophecy of doom that some will be bereft from their chelek in the country upon a return from exile. In Genesis 31:14, the bitter question is asked by Leah and Rachel if they will have a chelek in their father's house. The second word, tzedakah, justice, is used here as a formal legal concept. There is no legal basis for the interfering of Samaria with the affairs of Jerusalem. So, Bede. Yes. Okay. So he writes, we can we can properly take Artaxerxes, who, with the same devotion of his predecessor Cyrus, ordered that the city of Jerusalem be built, as a type of the Lord, who builds a city for himself from living stones. Sanballat and Tobias, who became greatly distressed because they realized that the building of Jerusalem were about to be restored, rightly signify the heretics and enemies of the church. As Nehemiah wanders around inspecting the various parts of the devastated city, so it is fitting for spiritual teachers to get up regularly at night and inspect with careful scrutiny the state of the Holy Church. Also, holy teachers, just like Nehemiah, are in the greatest distress as long as they discern that Jerusalem, that is the vision of peace that the Lord has commanded to us, lies deserted due to wars of disagreement.
Living stone?
Yeah, because Avanim, I think the reference is also in Nehemiah, like Avanim Chaim or something like that.
Oh, okay. Wait, Aaron, you're muted.
Yeah, that's Dr. Livingstone, I presume.
Yeah, it reminds me of the radio host who thought that you could grow cement.
Are we talking about the Roman cement with the water that goes into the...
No, it was just like he was like interviewing somebody who was using wood for building or something, and saying, you know, like, this is a good, you know, it's better, we should be using more wood in, you know, because in the UK we don't really use that much wood for building compared to the US, but something like that. And the radio host was like, so you're cutting down trees to build houses, and is it how's that good for the environment? And he's like, well, you can grow trees, you know. He's like, well, you can grow cement.
No, you very much cannot. I'm guessing it was
like
a conservative.
Jamie Wells offers $10 and says, Aaron, I really enjoyed your Triassic Sea Monsters video. The School of Ra is my classroom. Thank you so much for that. I love doing the phylogeny videos. I really do. They're my favorite content. But it takes so long. All of the visual references, especially when there's video involved. Do you have any idea how long it takes to find the right segment of motion that you're looking for a video segment? It's an awful lot of time scouring the internet to find the shit. So appreciate it.
Oh yeah. The I think the quote was more like, "You can't grow concrete," and then the radio host was like, "Yes, you can."
Isaac,
Oh
that's
my God.
nothing. On my last show, I had a guy who claimed that diamonds are plants. I'm not kidding.
I don't know what you're talking about, but diamonds are plants.
They're carbon-based platforms.
Yes.
Well, I really weep for our species.
Yeah.
You know, I think George Carlin had it right. Stop weeping for the species and just get a drink. Because at this point, fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't think
to buy Lawrence's shirt.
if you go on social
Sorry,
media,
what about my
I
shirt?
think
What about
there's
my
not
amazing
enough
fucking
drink.
Shirt? My amazing shirt. Everything is meaningless, completely meaningless.
It's a good verse.
Best one.
Okay, guys, seriously, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm with an echoey delay. Sorry, something happened with it. Doesn't matter. I'm here, and
Okay.
Nehemiah is whining. Although I was going to say earlier, I do love the idea that these two Persian kings, who probably were barely even aware of this minor province, like just tangentially, sent out a handful of previously conquered different peoples to a variety of places to just start their own colonies so they didn't have to deal with managing them personally. And that makes them a type of Christ. Awesome. Way to go, Bede.
Okay. Are we?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Are we moving on to chapter 3?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Okay, says Lawrence. All right. Let me say. That's chapter 2.
Enjoy.
Yes. Then the high priest Eliashib went to work with his fellow priests and rebuilt the sheep gate. They consecrated it and set up its doors. They consecrated it as far as the Tower of the 100 and as far as the Tower of Hananel. And the men of Jericho built next to him, and next to them Zakur, son of Imri, built. The sons of Hassanah built the fish gate. They laid its beams and set up its doors, its bolts, and its bars. Next to them, Meremoth, son of Uriah, son of Hakaz, made repairs. Next to them, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, son of Meshezebel, made repairs. Next to them, Zadok, son of Baana, made repairs. Next to them, the Tekoites made repairs, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work of their lord. Because, nobles. Joiada, son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Besodiah, repaired the old gate. They laid its beams and set its doors, its bolts, and its bars. Next to them, repairs were made by Melatiah the Gibeonite and Jadon the Meronothite, the men of Gibeon and of Mizpah, who were under the jurisdiction of the governor and the province beyond the river. Next to them, Uzziel, son of Harahiah, one of the goldsmiths, made repairs. Next to him, Hananiah, one of the perfumers, made repairs. Well, at least the building smelt nice. And they restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. Next to them, Rephaiah, son of Hur, ruler of half the district of Jerusalem, made repairs. Next to them, Jediah, son of Harumaph, made repairs opposite his house, and next to him, Hattush, son of Hashabeah, made repairs. Malchijah, son of Harim, and Hashub, son of Patheth Moab, repaired another section, and the towers of the ovens. Next to him, Shallum, son of Haloshesh, ruler of half the district of Jerusalem, made repairs, he and his daughters. Hanun and the inhabitants of Zanoah repaired the valley gate. They rebuilt it and set up its doors, its bolts, and its bars, and repaired the 1,000 cubits of the wall as far as the dung gate. Malchijah, son of Rechab, ruler of the district of Beth Hacharim, repaired the dung gate. He rebuilt it and set up its doors, its bolts, and its bars. And Shallum, son of Kolhozah, ruler of the district of Mizpah, repaired the fountain gate. He rebuilt it and covered it, and, let me guess, set up its bolts and its doors and its bars. And he built the wall, the pool of... hit the screen. What verse was I on?
15.
15. Okay, yeah, I accidentally hit something on the keyboard. Its bolts and its bars. And he built the wall of the pool of Shelah of the king's garden as far as the stairs that went down to the city of David. After him, Nehemiah, son of Azbuk, ruler of half the district of Beth-zur, repaired from a point opposite of the graves of David as far as the artificial pool and the house of the warriors. After him, the Levites made repairs. Rehum, son of Bani, next to him, Hashabiah, ruler of half the district of Keilah, made repairs for his district. After him, their kin made repairs. Binuai, son of Henadad, ruler of half the district of Keilah. Next to him, Ezer, son of Jeshua, ruler of Mizpah, repaired another section opposite of the ascent of the armory at the angle. After him, Baruch, son of Zabai, repaired another section from the angle of the door of the house of the high priest of Eliashib. After him, Meremoth, son of Uriah, son of Hakaz, repaired another section from the door of the house of Eliashib to the end of the house of Eliashib. After him, the priests, the men of the... the men of the surrounding area made repairs. After them, Benjamin and Hashub made repairs opposite of their house. After them, Azariah, son of Messiah, son of Ananiah, made repairs beside his own house. After him, Binuiah, son of Hanadad, repaired another section from the house of Azariah to the angle of the corner. Palal, son of Uzai, repaired the opposite and the angle of the tower projecting from the upper house of the king of the court of the guard. After him, Pedaiah, son of Parosh, and the temple servants living in Ophniel made repairs to a point opposite the Watergate, opposite the Watergate, on the east of the projecting tower. After
Okay,
him,
who was deep throat in this situation?
After him, the Tekoites repaired another section opposite the great projecting tower as far as the wall of Ophel. Above the horse gate, the priests made repairs, each one opposite his own house. After them, Zadok of Immer made repairs opposite his own house. After him, Shemaiah, son of Shechaniah, the keeper of the east gate, made repairs. After him, Hananiah, son of Shelemiah, and Hanun, sixth son of Zalaph, repaired another section. After him, Meshullam, son of Barakiah, made repairs opposite his living quarters. After him, Malchiah, one of the goldsmiths, made repairs as far as the house of the temple servants and the house of the merchants, opposite the muster gate, and the upper room and the corner, and between the upper room and the corner of the sheep gate, the goldsmiths and the merchants made repairs. So see, the Jews can do something together, and then in the next chapter, they all killed each other.
Yeah, so it's just another day.
Back to normal.
and before Isaac asks, in the Old Testament, chapter 3 ends in verse 32. So in the Hebrew, in the Masoretic text, we have the chapter ends at verse 38. So which are verses 1 through 8, I think, in the Old Testament, verse 4 of chapter 4.
I feel like whoever chose to stop it here was just like, well, the next bit is written slightly different, even though it's about a different
because
story.
It's a narrative.
Like, even though it's the same narrative, it's the same story. We just had a long list of names about building, and then the next bit is like, and then the bad guy came. So we have to put that in a separate chapter.
Admittedly, I very much get the impression that this is, who paid for it, because I very much doubt one dude alone was building the wall. But hey, if somebody can donate however much resources that would cost, I'm sure it's quite a bit.
If you go to like an old, if you go to like an old United Synagogue or a Sephardi synagogue like in London, like from a long time ago, like literally every like like light on the wall, what you call them, like not a chandelier, but like coming out of the wall, every light has a little plaque underneath saying like donated by blah blah blah, or this person, son of this person, pledged, I don't know, 8 guineas or whatever it was, 7 guineas for this, and it's like, it's literally like the interior of the building is decorated with plaques of like this person donated.
I was literally about to say, this is like the Bible version of having a plaque up with donated by Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, and their memory of their grandmother, and blah, 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 and, whatever.
Yeah, in memory of blah, 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 who loved sitting on this wall.
Or this bench.
There's
a lot of benches. If you go to, there's lots of parks in BC, like if they're close to a city or town where people will actually go and walk in them, then you'll get benches all over the place in various towns and cities and parks, and donated by so-and-so in memory of, my husband who loves to sit here, and there's the duck.
My husband would like to sit on.
It's very common here, like to see benches with little plaques on them. Don't know what white benches, but
Sorry. So because I knew that either Aaron or somebody else would say, "Oh, what is the point of this chapter?" and like the Bible, which is all like heavenly inspired or something like that.
They do the same shit with the fucking building of the tabernacle. They do the exact same fucking thing.
So,
But over here, it's
Well-
literally like we know the geography of the wall at a certain point, and like we're gonna divide it into sections, and we're gonna get all of the names of the people that we think lived at that time and who, or maybe they had some book, or maybe they had some plaques, and they just like every single section is covered, and the ones that don't have one will just say someone else did more than one.
Well,
Although it's interesting because the text says like they, this so and so built a second stretch, but sometimes those people they built a first stretch and then you see the same name again and then it says they built a second stretch. But I'm sure there was at least one that said they built a second stretch, but I don't think we saw their name before in the chapter. Is that right, Tomer? Did you check that? Was there anyone who was? I think there was one, at least one. It says they built a second stretch, and it never said that they built a first one.
Oh, in verse 30?
It might have been talking about the building of the wall. Like there's this first stretch
I mean, there
is
is
built by Jim, and
there
the
is a
second
lot of
stretch
second-
is built by Sam.
I mean,
Yeah, but
there is a
most
lot
of
of
the
second
time when it says
stretches.
shenis, like a second
Shenis.
part.
Shanice?
Sorry, my Ashkenazi slipped out. Shenit.
Shanit.
Maybe I should say shenith. Be more
Shanith.
accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most of the time, that the names are repeating, right? So it's like
yeah.
you see this Meshulam, son of Benaiah. He builds something in like, verse 3, and then in verse 25 he builds a second stretch. But then there's other verses I think where he has like this person built a second stretch, but like I don't think their name appeared in the chapter yet. So I don't know if that's a mistake or not. To me, it reads as a mistake. If there are any.
Okay, so I wrote a 1.5-page section on the purpose of this chapter, just to probably annoy Aaron even more. So, Smith notes that most commentators conclude that Nehemiah was not the original author of this list, because it is not a first-person narrative like other parts of his memoirs, and because verse 5 refers to Nehemiah as one of their masters, in Hebrew, Adonehem. For example, Kleins found the location of this list intrusive and classified it as an editorial addition, quote-unquote, and a literary misfit in this context, but adds that Nehemiah himself must have drawn up such a list when planning the operation. Smith writes that it is possible that Nehemiah included this historical account in his memoirs, even if it did not... Smith writes that it is possible that Nehemiah included this historical account in his memoirs, even if he did not originally created the list. Smith also notes Blenkinsop's opinion that the placement of chapter 3 at this point fits the narrator's literary strategy of contrasting success with opposition to building. Becking writes that only a few researchers are of the opinion that the list has no historical value. He writes that the fact that High Priest Eliashib occupies a prominent place in the list could be an indication that its background probably was from spheres around the temple. He notes that Williamson already observed that 220 and 333 forward, which is 4:1 forward in the Old Testament, have the same theme, opposition from the side of Sanballat, but 220 clearly refers to the preparation phase of recovery, while 333 forward, which is 4:1 forward, presupposes an already advanced phase of the recovery operations. For this reason, he writes, quote, "The position that Nehemiah 3 contained an organic part of the narrative is preferable," end quote. Japhet writes that the list was intended to answer the needs of the district or central government, and to present an exact picture of the construction until completion. From it, practical consequences regarding construction and funding were derived. She writes that both of the literary definition of this unit as an official list with clear purposes and the ancient Near Eastern parallels confirm the authenticity of the documents and its dating, during or immediately after construction. She writes that while we have not enough data to determine who wrote the list, it is not sufficient to doubt its originality. Fried writes that the list is inserted into Nehemiah's narrative as a permanent memorial for those who contributed to the wall building effort. She writes, quote, that these are the people who will have a share, right, and memorial in Jerusalem, in contrast to Nehemiah's 3 enemies who will not. Like all other lists included in Ezra-Nehemiah, this one too has the literary purpose of assuring the Hellenistic reader of the truth and validity of his story, and that the author can be trusted, since he has access to reliable sources. The presence of the list here also serves to slow down the action and build suspense in the reader beyond the eventual reaction of the governors of Beyond the River to the wall building. Importantly, it showcases the large number of people from all parts of the province who came to Jerusalem to willingly participate in the building project. This is component Ka, or component CA, of the ancient Near Eastern wall building story. Volunteers come from all over the province to help build the wall, in contrast to the few enemies of Nehemiah who oppose it.
I mean, like, building suspense is one thing, but like, imagine you had a movie and they're like, okay, before the bad guy comes, we need to build suspense. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a montage and show every single extra who is in this army, and we're gonna show each one's face, and we're gonna be like, say his name out loud or something like that. Like, it's not very good storytelling.
No, and honestly, if you're going to do a montage, that's better done in film with a 80s soundtrack. You know, like, skip to the end. Just speed it up. Speed it up, people.
Yeah. Like Lord of the
Okay,
Rings, where
sorry.
they have the little bit where he's like, where Aragorn sees like a young boy in armor, and he's like scared, and he like talks to him and you know, gives him some morale. It might be an extended scene, but like, imagine it did that for every single soldier on the wall.
Yeah, it's very touching when he's like, "This is a good sword, Hamath, son of Hamama," but admittedly, it would drag on.
And I think that scene is cut from the theatrical release, I think.
I don't think
I
so,
saw it.
but then
There.
I've been watching the extended editions for so long. There's only a couple things I know. Yeah, but I think that might have been in the theatrical, because he did leave in moments that really provided character connection and mood. Those small moments that kept engaged, and just not all of them.
Right.
Still did Gimli wrong.
All right, and where are we?
Yes, verse 1. Yeah, I just the purpose of this chapter. So, what do you expect?
Yeah. Okay, he's gonna now explain every name. Come on, go for it.
Yes, exactly. Okay, on verse 1, Japhet comments, quote, "The first round from the sheep gate counterclockwise was entrusted by the priests, led by Eliashib the great priest, and certainly portrays the importance of the priestly class among the Judeans, and the high priest in particular. For some scholars, presenting Eliashib the great priest as somebody who cooperated with Nehemiah proves that the list is not an original component of Nehemiah's memoir, or that verse 1a was edited in a secondary edit. But their claim is unconvincing. While it seems from the second part of the Nehemiah's memoir that Eliashib and Nehemiah were not unanimous with their relation to Tobiah, as we see in Nehemiah 13, 4-9, the passage portrays events that happened 12 years later, during which Nehemiah was absent from Jerusalem. So we shouldn't conclude something about the relationship between them during the wall's construction, at the beginning of Nehemiah's rule. Priests had an important place at construction, and the fact that the priests who served in the temple, with the high priest at its head, are those who started the mission and built its first segment, fits the document in general. On verse 5, their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisions. The Masoretic text has, their mighty ones, Adilehem, did not bring their neck to the work of their lords. Compare Septuagint, the Adorim did not contribute their neck to their service. Some commentators take the Adilehem as either the rich people of Tekoa, according to Pseudo-Rashi, Saadia, and Fried, or the tall and strong among them, according to Gersonides. Usually, Adirim refers to nobles, as we see in 10:30, Jeremiah 14:3, 2 Chronicles 23:20. But the usual title in Nehemiah for nobles is Chorim. The exact reason for their refusal is not mentioned. Fried suggested that mighty ones is meant to be satirical. They are too mighty, quote-unquote, to work. Becking notes that Williamson suggests that the location of the Koa might have brought these local leaders into Geshem's sphere of influence. He writes, however, that there is sluggishness in the governing layer of the community. It is also unclear if the masters refer to Eliashib, Nehemiah, or local rulers. On verse 9, half district of Jerusalem. Hebrew for district is pelech. The word appears only here in the Hebrew Bible and is usually translated to district, as we see in Pseudo-Rashi, duchy or a kingdom, Gersonides, Kimchi, KJV, NIV, JPS, and most modern commentators. The word is generally taken to be an Akkadian loanword from Pilku, region or area, which might indicate not just the city, but also the surrounding area. Becking, however, notes that Yehud seems too small to comprise at least 5 districts. Thus, he writes that the Hebrew noun should be associated with the second meaning of Pilku, work on the rebuilding of a wall. He writes that Pelech could refer to a military service or a civil liability, noting that in Nehemiah 3, a Pelech is preceded by a Sar. The person concerned would then be the foreman of a group of people doing their military service by repairing part of the wall. Septuagint reads, half the area around Jerusalem, and Vulgate, the street of Jerusalem. On verse 12, with the help of his daughters. The Masoretic text reads, Hu vebnotav, he and his daughters. The verse is usually taken to refer to Shalom working on the wall with his daughters, as we see in Septuagint, Vulgate, and Pseudo-Rashi. Harrington notes that the participation of everyone in the building of the city walls is reflected in Athens. According to Thucydides, when the Athenians tried to rebuild the walls after the destruction by the Persians, it was ordered that, quote, the whole population of the city, men, women, and children, should take part in the wall building, end quote, in the Peloponnesian War 193. Japhet notes that for some scholars, this meaning is impossible, since the social reality in Judah during the return from exile made women invisible, quote-unquote, and suggest reading, and his sons, vebanav, as we see in Peshitta, or and his builders, vebonav. She writes, however, that there is no reason to see this text as a result of corruption. Moreover, the unusual reference sheds light to the activity of women in Judah during the return from exile period, and about their status, and this remark is very prominent in light of the limited mention of women in EN. Still, Fried argued that if this is the case, then Shalom would have made his daughters toil out in the hot sun, building a wall for 2 months during Av and Elul, which is July and August, as we see in 615, the hottest season of the year. She writes that this is unlikely, and it is more possible that daughters refers to the suburbs of the district of Jerusalem, as we see in Joshua 15:45 and 47 and 17:11.
That's interesting because this does not seem to be a part of the Bible where, I mean, obviously we've come across the phrase Jerusalem and her daughters in several different contexts, but this doesn't seem to be part that's speaking in that kind of flowery language.
Yeah, also the Hebrew doesn't really follow it that way. It's like he was the master. It says the name master of half of the county of Jerusalem or whatever, and then it says him and his daughters. So if it was talking about Jerusalem, normally cities are referred to as female. So it would just say something more like Yerushalayim or Banat. I can't remember what the feminine, like, how you would say it. It would be like Ubana no Tano? No.
Especially in the prophetic voice, whenever God is degrading Jerusalem and insulting it, he always refers to it in the feminine.
Yeah, it'd be like 10, something like that. Something like that. Definitely wouldn't have who, he. You would instead have he, which is she.
On verses 14 and 15, Harrington notes that recently a Qumran fragment of Nehemiah was found by J.H. Charlesworth with sections of verses 14 and 15. The text reflects a Proto-Masoretic type, but preserves the meaning "and his sons," also found in Septuagint. She writes that the Qumran version indicates that Malchiah repaired the dung gate with the help of his sons. There is evidence on the scroll, however, that a scribe has changed the reading to "he built it," Yevanenu, which uses much the same letters as "and his sons," the Banav, in an effort to bring the text into line with the Proto-Masoretic tradition. She notes, however, that the authenticity of the Nehemiah fragment is presently under dispute due to provenance and scribal issues. According to a certain K. Davis, who? Anybody heard of him?
No idea.
You're muted.
Never heard of that guy. It must be a bozo.
I was going to say
I
K.
think
Davis.
he's a friend of Carrier.
Oh no. Lilith, you started a war.
Aaron and his choir invisible.
Look, I'm aware that he doesn't like Carrier, but if I bring up Carrier, suddenly Kip appears like a fan. It's like Beetlejuice, except you have to say the name of his enemy.
You would have to say it 3 times.
Carrier.
And finally, on 26, Japhet notes that this verse is difficult, and 3 interpretations for this verse are usually given. 1. Verse 26 is a parenthesis between verse 25 and verse 26, which doesn't describe the root of the wall, or verse 27, but rather the area reached by the description of its construction, where the wall of the Ophel also passed, in verse 27. She writes that in the Ophel area lived the Netinim, the lowest group among the temple servants, and their place of residence was defined based on sites in the city, with no connection to the root of the wall, at the northern end up to the water gate to the east, and at the southern end opposite the jutting tower, already mentioned in verse 25. 2. The opening clause of the verse, and the Netinim were dwelling in Ophel, is a later gloss, inserted here from 1121, and interprets the next clause as describing Pedaiah's section, not described previously in the previous verse, according to Rudolph and BHS. 3. The phrase Hayu Yoshvim, were dwelling, should be amended to Hayoshvim, who dwelt, with the addition of Hecheziku, repaired, and thus reading the verse not as a description of the Netinim's place, but as their section of the wall. Quote, and the Netinim who dwelt in the Ophel repaired up to the water gate and the projecting tower. End quote, according to Ehrlich and Williamson. Now, Bede! It was right that the restoration of the city was begun by a high priest and his brothers, in order that those who were highest in rank might themselves in their good works become an example for all. The fish gate typologically refers to the community of Christians, because just as flock stands for the Lord's faithful, so in the same way they are frequently called fish.
So I had a question about that.
Yes.
Okay, so the dung gate.
Yes.
Is that where they throw out the shit?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, and
or
the
garbage in
gate.
general.
Although nowadays it's like the main entrance to the old.
The water gate is the main entrance?
No, the dung gate.
No, the dung gate.
You enter through the dung gate.
Hey, at least it's not smelly today, right?
I think it's because
because they had a guy with they had a perfumer.
Not a euphemism.
They had a perfumer there. Of course, it's not gonna smell.
Yeah. No, there is like an actual.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called a dung gate. Like, if it's just named after like where the tradition comes from, why that one is named after this one in Nehemiah, but
it would make sense if it was at least the back door.
Kinda.
I don't think it was important. I think just in modern times they decided that one would be the one that they would make large enough for cars to fit through.
So was it at that time used for throwing out the shit?
Perhaps. As the name suggests. Yes.
Okay, so what is the Watergate?
Watergate?
Where they threw out the piss.
I don't think Tomer gets it.
I wasn't making a Watergate.
You're not making a Watergate joke?
No, I am not making a Watergate. Because, I mean, I would think that if you have a dung gate, the only possible reason you would have a dung gate is that that's where you throw out your shit. Right? Because they don't have plumbing. And because they don't have plumbing, they also have a water gate. Why they're not the same gate, I don't know. I would think that the side of the wall closest to the ravine should be the dung gate, and all that goes out there. That would be intelligent, I think.
Oh,
Isaac says that they made the sewage channel the main entrance.
Well, no, the dung gate is like a proper entrance to the city, and it's. I think the name dung gate is anachronistic because.
Is that what it means when people say that they had to go through some shit to get here?
Maybe.
So then it gets weirder than that because it makes logical sense. You would have a dung gate. It wouldn't be the main entrance. It definitely would be the back door. and that would be where you throw out your shit. But then you also have a water gate, and I'm thinking this is not people that are like bringing shit in from the well. You would think it would be wise to have a well inside the wall, and maybe they do. So that would mean that the water gate is where they're throwing out their bad water, or well, I guess they could just piss off the wall, couldn't they? But I mean, so I don't know. Shit, what bad water is going out of the water gate? And then they have a fish gate. So is that for the stuff that went bad? And then worse, they have a sheep gate. The fuck do you do with the sheep gate? I don't
Aaron, some of these are for things in, some of them are for things out.
Well, according to Fried at least, perhaps the gate through which the sacrificial sheep were brought. It was directly across from the temple precincts on the north side of the city.
Okay, so you can't have like a main entrance and then over there is the dung gate. You also have to have a fish gate and a sheep gate and a water gate and a...
I mean, like where the gate names come from. It's not like they built the gate with the purpose.
I like True Text comment, Christina Applegate. That's funny.
I mean, there
was
a
gate. Better gate to me.
There was a gate in the city of London that was known as the Cripple Gate.
Oh, there could have been a fish market at the fish gate as well, according to Becking.
Yeah, it makes sense as well.
That does make some sense. And
the water market might have been the closest.
And if all of this was designed by God, then he definitely put the fish gate way too close to the dung gate.
You don't know. There could be all kinds of meanings to the gates given at different times. Hell, the fish gate could have had something to do with astrological signs as much as a fishmonger.
Yep. That's also true.
Okay, so where was I? Oh, Bede. They who build the dung gate in Jerusalem prefigure the ones who ordained to the ministry of the Holy Church, those who through whom the filth of the vices is removed from the minds of the elect. And the pool of Shelach, which means sent, where the man born blind was given light, stands for the Lord Savior who was sent by God the Father for our illumination. The builders of the gate of the horses foreshadow the holy teachers who show satisfactory examples of living to those who enter the doors of the holy church. Yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah, I mean the dung gate could have been like the way that it might have been that's the way to the fields, so they would take the dung from animals or humans or both to the direction where the fields are, so they could use it as fertilizer. It could have been.
I think human waste was considered too unclean for that, but animal dung used as fertilizer has been a thing for quite some time, all over the world.
Right, that's possible. I mean, I think that does the Hebrew word mean dung, or does it just mean like dirt?
I mean, ashpot.
Like,
I mean, generally, I think it means like ash heap or dung hill. Like though ashpa in modern Hebrew is garbage, right?
Right.
Yeah,
maybe it was just
I'm
built
done.
really badly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where are we in your commentary, Tommy?
I'm done.
You're done. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So,
Yes.
I'm going to have to bail. So, do we know when we're going to meet up again?
I would actually like another stream besides the one we'll do next Saturday because I thought we had...
Okay, Tomer. The whole issue we had last time is because of the English language and the differences between when the week starts in different countries. So
yes,
don't say next ever again.
Yes.
Because to some people next Saturday means this Saturday.
Yeah.
And to some people next Saturday means the one after this Saturday.
So so I'm specifying the date.
Okay.
Yes, say the date.
In addition to the one we're doing on Saturday on the 27th, I thought maybe we could have an additional stream on the next week because I thought originally that we were going to have a stream on the 30th.
That's the week after the 27th. that you said now.
No, the
This
week
week.
before.
I'm just trying to confuse
think-
Tomer. Don't interrupt me.
Stop it. We are not confusing other people. You can confuse off camera.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
No.
between the
Saturday
27th
Do you
and
want to
the
have one before
26th.
that?
I would like to have one before that as well to compensate on Saturday the 13th.
Okay.
Saturday
but we
the
can't
13th.
To
But we can't
compensate
do-
on that because I thought we were going to have a stream on Saturday.
Right, but we can't do Tuesday, Wednesday, we can't do Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday
Because it was
Because it's
Rosh Hashanah.
because of Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah,
Who's he?
we'll probably
Who said?
Yeah, who's that?
Well, both me and Tomo would probably.
It's not even on the show, Isaac. What are you talking about?
How come we can't talk about Rosh Hashanah?
I mean, we could do it that day.
I never met the lady.
It's just it'd be ideal if we could do it on Thursday. Let's say.
To help Tomer, we could do Thursday the 25th. I can do the 25th.
Okay, so
I
we're going
might
to
be
do
able to do that.
Nehemiah 4 on
actually,
September 25th.
Oh, actually, I can do that. Yeah.
Is that our next show?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you sure?
Actually, I can't.
You can't?
Come here.
Oh.
Tomo,
I
Are
know,
you sure we
sorry,
can't
I
do
just-
Wednesday? It's the last day of Rosh Hashanah.
I can do Wednesday, I think.
Okay. Just means I
Isaac?
can do it for my
See,
parents.
Alright,
this
what
is
day is
this
that
is why
now?
you just say no to family.
24th of September.
24th.
No, it's
Okay,
just like
and
last time the
so
internet.
that's our
shut down.
next show. Nehemiah 4 on the 24th.
Okay.
Okay.
A week from now.
All right.
And I may have to check.
bail
I may.
so that
I may.
I can
Arn.
take my,
I
what?
may have to check with Natalia first because I don't know if I'm gonna have a show on that day. But
Okay.
that's why I suggested Thursday.
Okay. Well, but Tomar can't do Thursday. So we will communicate an email. and
Yeah.
look- And are we talking about like a week from today? Maybe.
Yes.
Yes,
Maybe.
roughly a week from today.
All right. Well, I have to go get my 83-year-old mother and take her out for ice cream, as is our Wednesday ritual.
Aw, that's
Okay then.
sweet.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah. All right.
And behold, the
No
Discord
one.
link
Behold,
no,
indeed.
posted.
no
Go to
one.
the,
Any
the Whole
messages?
Network Discord. Subscribe to the channel and pick up some fucking merch. Because
Oh,
it's
and,
just fucking dope.
And Peter, please also post the link to
It's
my
already
Throne account.
there.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
already
Yeah,
there.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
congratulations, Tomer. It seems that you finally ruined Milwaukee Atheist Discord server, so it's now officially yours.
Yes.
Well, that one doesn't exist
Oh.
anymore. So, it currently doesn't have a Discord.
Not what it
All
says
right.
in chat.
Children, don't make me get the stick.
Tell everyone good night.
לילה טוב
Good night,
לכולם,
everyone.
מקווה לראות אתכם בפעם הבאה שאנחנו נהיה בשידור, אני מקווה אולי ביום רביעי, אבל אני מקווה לראות אתכם שם, אז להתראות לכולם, ביי ביי, לילה טוב.